that stuff.
Yeah, I meant to
I'm
bring it
already
up,
used to
then I
that.
forgot to.
And just do it, so I might as well keep it.
All right, well, I'll
For
keep
some
it
reason,
later.
coffee tastes like hand sanitizer.
Probably everything tastes.
I have washed this, and
I've washed
sprayed
my
and
hands
squirted
with it
so
too.
long, so many times, everything.
Rough and
tastes like-
crinkly, it was rough and crinkly to begin
Oh,
with.
we got to
I
start.
started putting coconut oil in my
Yep,
hands.
it's time.
Because my hands are so.
I'd like to call this budget meeting to order. Let us stand and say the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And let us pray. Heavenly Father, we invite you into this budget meeting today to give us wisdom, guide us and lead us to make the right decision that will benefit our great town of Nashville and our taxpayers at the same time. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Before we start, I know where people can watch us, so I would just like to say, we welcome you, if you're watching this early in the morning, to our budget meeting. And this is one of the most challenging and difficult jobs that I think the council has to do as an elected official. And that is spend your money with wisely and be fair in all things that we do. And this time, as you know, is a time like we've never seen before because of the COVID-19. And where we could usually predict our income from the sales tax, we don't have a true vision at this time of what it will be. I was reading in the North Carolina League of Municipalities that they predict that the intake will be 25%. They did that at the beginning, and now they're saying it might be even more. But I want you to know that as a council, we're going to do everything we can to protect our town and spend your tax dollars wisely. We certainly want our budget to support our vision for Nashville, and we expect Nashville to continue growing and continue being the great town that it is. When I became mayor, I was very pleased to see that the budget was in good shape, that we had a good fund balance and that we were not in a lot of debt. And I hope we can keep it that way. But anyway, I assure you that your tax dollars will be spent wisely, and we're going to continue to keep you safe in Nashville. And we want to continue for Nashville to be a vibrant town and a great place for people to live. So at this time, I will turn it over to, I would like to say to the board members, if you want to speak, would you just raise your finger so I can recognize you? Because I looked at our last video and we were just speaking out, and I think we need a little more order. So if you just hold your finger up and I'll recognize you so we can make sure, since people are watching in, everybody will hear our comments. All right.
Mayor,
Yes, you may.
so we put together a proposed itinerary or agenda for today's meeting and some prescribed times. If we stay on that, that's fine. If we get off, it's the council's meeting. So we just thought this would give us some structure to first discuss the revenues and look at fees, discuss the garbage truck and vehicles that we have proposed to purchase in this budget with some short-term borrowing, break for lunch, and then we come back after lunch, and then we discuss the market salary or the wage and salary survey and its implications on this particular budget, and then the major capital requests. So.
Okay.
So I would like to just do a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Had some questions and comments, so I'll just go ahead and address those now. So on page 8 of my budget presentation, this budget comparison by fund, it was noted that in the second to last column here, there was $100,000 discrepancy And the reason for that is just because that 100,000 did not carry through all the way to the end. So that number is 1.9. So I did want to just confirm that. Another, something that was also pointed out, look at your capital replacement plan. It's actually page 279 of the budget manual. It was noted that some of the columns didn't quite add up. And I did want to point out, and it takes some time to kind of go into this, and we'll talk about this a little bit more detail when we get to the capital items. But on my capital replacement plan here, some of the items that we had funded in previous years, we are now no longer going to fund those items. We're transferring those funds to other items or other capital needs. And so I was trying to just kind of account for that and transfer the funds. The end total of your capital, the 728, that was shown in the budget presentation. That is the correct ending balance. The discrepancy occurred when I was trying to back out some of those transfers. So your first two columns. So I have provided an amended copy here for you of proposed capital placement that includes the current figures. But just be aware that that ending balance that was presented to you, that is the correct balance.
Sam, excuse me, Mayor,
Yes.
shouldn't we correct it in flip chart on page 29?
Yes, I think it has been corrected. It's on the website. And so what I put on the website should be correct. I'll double check.
But all of us should make sure it's corrected on page 29.
That's right. So that last number, the 728, that is a correct number. That's the first
Okay,
number.
okay, what should the first number be?
Well, so if you look on this, now it's kind of difficult. The first number, 972,000.
Right.
We're reallocating some funds. So the best thing to look at would probably be this, to show, so that you can see the items that are being, the monies that are being transferred to other items.
Okay, so the first column should be 972,688.
Mhm.
Okay, the other two columns are correct, but the finishing should be 728,804.
Yes, ma'am. So that number was correct.
Okay.
That's correct, okay.
Does everyone have that corrected?
I've also heard some feedback on council's budget. And so we have removed the clerk's salary and the clerk's expenditures, and we have now moved those back into the administration budget. So you, in this copy right here, so all those numbers in your budget have been updated to reflect. It's in this packet right here, which is on.
I have a question.
Excuse me.
Go ahead. Rationale for cramming all that under governing body to begin with. When I saw that, I thought, what?
Well, I'll be honest, it's just what I'm used to seeing. The clerk's, where I came from, the clerk's budget was in with the council. It's just, it was considered part of the function of the governing body, as the clerk typically primarily serves the council. I don't have any problem moving it back.
In our experience, the clerk has always been with the administration manager, and in this case, HR was part of the clerk. You know, the same person was doing that job, so it was all under the manager.
Yeah, it really was just, that was what I was used to seeing. I did, now that there are two separate functions, I did move the HR budget out into its own separate budget. And at the same time, I had done that with the clerk budget as well, so that we could see those. But I have no problem. I'm moving that back to the administration budget. And so that has been updated.
Okay, in doing that, okay, HR is now 169,975. The clerk and manager, that comes to 283,795. All those together, it's $453,770. Okay, and that used to be last year's budget when all of it was, the administration was the clerk, HR, and manager. It was 317,191. So the difference is 136,579 increase.
Some of them.
It came from non-departmental.
Yeah.
A lot of
All that
non-departmental stuff
moved-
has been
all of
moved
that has been
into.
moved. The only things that are now in that are increases in the.
So if you look at
council's budget.
non-departmental, it's decreased compared to last year's.
I know, but most of what you put under HR and the clerk, it's administrative.
Well, that's true, but HR, we'd like to show that as a separate function.
All right. But I just see $136,000 increase in breaking everything up.
I think only because it's allocated from
Yeah.
non-departmental.
Certain things have been allocated. There have been a couple increases. The largest one for the website upgrade. There is one item I'd like to discuss, and it's actually in the non-departmental budget. And that's the Carolinas Gateway Partnership. There has been some discussion of us leaving that partnership. So that money was eliminated out of the budget. I just wanted to confirm that that was something that the council was aware of and in agreement with. That $10,000 would need to be added back into the budget.
Well, have we decided,
In the general fund and also in the enterprise fund.
have we decided to leave the Gateway Partnership yet?
Well,
There was a question about it because the mayor and Randy met with the county, and they were, I guess, recruiting us to leave the Gateway Partnership and to come over and to join with them at the same cost that we were giving to the Gateway Partnership. But this council has not discussed it openly yet to determine whether or not it's beneficial to us to leave or to stay where we are.
I do want to say that after the presentation, we did receive our request from Carolinas Gateway, and it was, last year they requested 20,000, this year they're requesting 25,000.
Okay, they're requesting 25,000 simply because Nash County has left the coffer, but I'm not convinced that we need to leave and go to the county. But I do stand on the fact that if we do stay where we are, that we maintain the 20 that we're paying already, not bump it up to compensate for somebody else. I think the Gateway will have to do what we're doing is try to find other ways to find that difference. There's been some talk about the Gateway not really, I'm gonna get you in, Kate, I'm sorry.
don't worry.
There has been some talk about the Gateway Partnership not being profitable for us, but I would think it would not be a great time to back out at this point simply because of what we've got going on at our Commerce Park right now. And that was helped quite a bit from the Gateway Partnership.
Right.
So, the old term is, what have you done for me lately? Yeah, before this, we didn't see any action. Everything was going in another direction. And it seemed like everything was going to Edgecombe County, but you can't always blame that on the partnership because the people that were requesting properties to move into, they're the ones that make the determination where they want to go. And I think the guys at Gateway are pushing us just as hard as they can. And we have to look also, we've got the hotel is still on the table. Our new pharmaceutical place is on the table. And I wrote about it yesterday and they're moving real fast. So I my own personal opinion, I think we need to stay where we are at the same rate that we are contributing at this time. I don't know how the rest of you guys feel, but I'd like to hear it.
Okay, Kate, you next.
I agree. I know we did casually speak about it because we weren't seeing any
Right.
results. We weren't seeing any push for our properties or at least any results from the push of our properties. But now that we've got the pharmaceutical place here and we've had a contribution from the Gateway, we've had a lot of work on their part. And I think with the hotels still on the table, I think it's become a very beneficial relationship. I think that they've seen what we have to offer, and they really are pushing our properties now. So I think it would be beneficial to stay at this point.
Leah, you were next.
Yeah,
I agree.
How do you
I
feel?
think that it's premature to look at us changing right now, and I agree with same thing that Larry and Kate have said as far as the progress that's been made out at our industrial park and hotel coming. And I also concur with keeping the funding at the same level as last year.
What was the funding last year?
20.
20.
Went down
20?
10 in the general fund and 10 in the.
My concern is that it took so many years for anything to happen,
It did,
but 7 years.
it did.
And things were, we were assured that something was coming, and it took forever. And, you know,
But how do you feel now? I mean, do you still?
I'm very lukewarm.
All right.
Mayor, and I understand where Louise is coming from in that. It's just the nature of shell buildings. I think it just takes a very long time to get people into that. So I'm certainly willing to give Gateway a little bit more time for the things that we have currently going on. But certainly if we don't, at some point, if council feels like we're not getting
Mhm.
any bang for our buck, then I would entertain us looking at it.
And they're talking about possible expansion, so, yeah.
Let me add one more thing. As far as the shell buildings and stuff like that, and companies coming in, it's always important, and if you look at what's going into Rocky Mount / Edgecombe County, the mold has already been broken. People have started going, and businesses have a tendency to go where other people have already opened the door and start going. And I think that's probably has done a hindrance to us as far as our corporate building out here, is that who was going to be the first one to break the mold and go in there? And I would hope, and I think now that we've got a business going in there, that others will follow, and it'll be a lot easier. At least I hope so anyway. So I think we need to just hang on for just a little while longer.
Also, we need to know
Okay.
that
Not to discount the relationship with the county too, because that's another one that I wanted to point out last week,
Right.
that they financially contributed
They did.
to things that we've been doing, and Susan Phelps has been doing a wonderful job working with us. So
And I think
just
both of
all of
them,
those relationships.
I think both of them are going to still, whether we go or not, I think the county's going to still support us the same way they've been doing.
we need to note that we still have 2 lots at our original
Mhm.
park
We do.
that are fallow.
Mhm.
And so track record is not that great.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. You just keep on pushing.
Maybe it'll change. I
Well,
know.
and I think with this, them knowing that we are being pulled away, that we decide to stay with you because we anticipate things to pick
To happen for our area.
I think that'll help out too.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I will add the 10,000 back in. It's gonna be a $10,000 expense in the general fund and also a $10,000 increase in the enterprise fund. So
Right.
I'm glad we were able to confirm that. Also, I would like to just go back to this proposed capital replacement plan, just briefly. So like I had mentioned, we have $102,000 left over in a fund. It's our well construction fund for a project that's done. It's over and done. I'm just requesting, personally, I'm just requesting that we just go ahead and move that money into the capital reserve fund for the enterprise fund. That's where the monies came from in the first place, from the enterprise fund. I'd like to just go ahead and close out that well fund and move that money into our capital reserve fund to be used for future infrastructure projects or whatever, with the enterprise fund.
How much do we have left over?
It's $102,613.
I would say we need to move it back.
And I can actually, for cleanup, I can go ahead and just do a budget amendment and just get that done this year. And that gives us a little bit, Okay.
I concur.
Couple of little things. So, it was noted that, we had some miscellaneous expense line items that are in the budget, in past years. Just FYI, that's just not something that is really a good practice to do. Everything really has a category, there's not really any miscellaneous expenses. So just FYI, all of those miscellaneous expense line items have just been eliminated out of the budget. And
What about contingency?
Ancillary.
Ancillary.
Ancillary is for a specific reason.
Postage.
Telephone, postage, and internet. And any other kind of service that is similar in nature, that is ancillary in nature. So it's very specific, very few things are going to be budgeted out of there. Our NC 811, that's call before you dig, that's kind of an ancillary service, that's budgeted there. The SCADA for the lift stations, that's budgeted there. Basically, that is it. It's basically telephone and postage, but slightly more broad to include some more of the high-tech services that are
Lynn?
ancillary in nature.
You have a question?
I agree with the miscellaneous, and the ancillary was new to me. I'd not been accustomed to that. I was used to seeing the actual expenditure for whatever it was, whether there were telephone, postage, et cetera. The only thing that concerns me a little bit about that is it's still a very broad category, and I'm pretty confident that auditors are going to require some sort of a breakdown. They're going to want to know exactly what makes up those totals. I'm okay probably either way leaving it in, but miscellaneous, definitely, I agree that we not go with that, not have a miscellaneous account.
Thanks for your input.
Yeah, just the telephone and postage, like I said, I wanted to broaden that to include those other services that are ancillary, but it's a very specific category. It's not going to be a catch-all or anything like that.
I have,
Yeah.
and about contingency.
So we do still have that contingency fund, the $20,000 for the Carolinas Gateway. It was going to be reallocated as a contingency fund for any projects that we were going to end up doing with Nash County instead, because we were considering, it had been talked about a partnership with Nash County rather than Carolinas Gateway. So that $20,000 contingency is still in there, and it's earmarked for Carolinas Gateway projects. But that's the only contingency fund. That is the only.
That is in case we have a project to come up where we
Right.
need to find some more money to subsidize what we need to do. We pull it out of that fund.
That's right. And in fact, the only other contingency I can think of at this time is the Parks and Rec, the 20,000 Parks and Rec. But I actually put that in, and I could move it into a contingency line item. But I actually put that in, I budgeted maintenance, park maintenance, building maintenance, or capital projects.
Buildings, yeah.
It's in buildings. It's in the building. And there was, it was pointed out that some of my funds were out of balance. I did go ahead and clean that up. There were some line items in the 1819 and 1920 budgets. And so I did clean that up. And if you now see in our new budget packet here, I've included in the very last page of it, on the second to last page, a verification that the funds are in balance, and it just shows you what the total revenues are and the total expenditures. Any expenditures over revenues, which those should all be zero. And it shows you what the fund balance appropriation was for each of those columns.
So all those cleanups you just mentioned is in this package.
That's right.
Okay,
Yes, sir. It's in the last page. second to last page.
Okay, gotcha.
I do want to
101A.
point out, there was one, it was an 1819 budget, Fund 41.
Mhm.
It was out of balance. $2,700.
And you corrected
I
that.
verified that it was out of balance. But all the other ones are now in balance.
Okay.
Okay.
And so that's all the cleanup I have. So the first item on our itinerary here, I'd like to discuss our revenues, just to see if anybody's got any questions about revenues. And then no questions on that, I'd like to go ahead and discuss our fees.
I have some questions about revenues.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, on the second page, sales and use tax distribution.
What do you have, Louise? Which sheet?
Yes,
Okay.
Where are you, Louise? And
On the second page of revenues,
okay.
sales and tax distribution. Okay, it looks like you have it up by about 20,000.
it is up by 20,000, but it's down actually by 20,000 over our current year estimate.
Okay, if the league is saying that 3 weeks ago, they were saying it would be down 25%.
It's actually, if you look on this, the thing that I
Just
gave
gave
you
us
this
that.
morning.
Uh-huh.
It's actually on very first page.
What page is the bottom right-hand corner?
It's this is 79.
79 of the new.
79A.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thanks.
It is kind of toward the bottom of that page. There's line item
Mhm.
10,337. 10,345. Sales and use tax.
I didn't know that we were getting this, and so I just made copies from the book.
What the league is saying, our largest decrease is going to be actually in this current year, in the last quarter of the current year. And then the first quarter is also going to be a quite significant decrease. And then we're gonna, now, hopefully, if we don't have a second wave, this time, we just don't know. We'll start to flatten out in that third quarter. And then there will be a very, very slight increase in the last quarter of next fiscal year. That's what the league had, that's what the literature had said at the time when I was budgeting that number. So overall, it's not like a 20% decrease overall for the total fiscal year. It's just in those first couple of quarters. And then it kind of starts to pick back up. But of course, at this time, we just don't know how it's gonna pan out. If there is a second wave, we'd have to address that at that time.
Louise?
And the auto revenues, we're expecting those to be down, right?
Which ones?
Auto, vehicle.
The motor vehicle tax?
Mhm.
Yeah, I do think they are. I think they're a little bit down this year. Looking. We had
And-
budgeted 280. I don't think that we're gonna get all 280 this year.
The recommendation says 240, no?
That's right. So this year, our amended budget for the 1920 budget, we had budgeted 280. But
Okay.
currently our revenues are a little bit down, so.
And the beer and wine tax, we aren't expecting to get anything.
We haven't gotten any in several years, so I'm not projecting that we're going to get any.
Has that been excuse
Yeah,
me,
it's been,
Go ahead. Lynn.
has that been discontinued?
yeah, I believe so. In fact, our ABC profits are a little bit down, which I thought was a little bit strange. I did want to point
I
out,
think that'll come back up.
sort of at the top of the page, our automobile sticker fees. We do charge an automobile sticker fee, $12.50. Now, per the statute, actually, part of that is required to be allocated to streets. And so that hadn't been done in previous years. So I've added a line item there. Only $5 of that can we use for general purpose, and the other $7.50 we've got to use. It has to be specifically allocated for streets. So that's just another change.
The Gully Fire District, the fire protection contribution, okay. Have we heard anything about whether the 3 cents has been approved?
Well, I spoke with Donna Wood last week. She said that probably that would be approved. They did have some questions. They wanted to know what our contribution was. So I gave her that information. But she said she's pretty confident that's going to be approved.
Okay, so that's an assumption. We
That's correct.
can't on that figure. Also, the sanitation fee that goes to 700,000. That's an assumption.
That's based on an increase in the fee.
And that's a 24% increase.
That's based on an increase in the fee, and that's something that I would like for council to decide today as far as what we're going to do with the fees, the proposed fees.
So that increase, though, is so that we can continue doing leaf pickup, correct? Because we had those issues that we now have to pay more to have our debris properly dumped and clean up these
That's right.
issues.
It includes the sanitation fee as well as the increase in recycling fee, which we discussed that actually the increase in the recycling fee ought to be even 9 cents higher.
Right.
Than originally reported.
But if we don't increase the fee,
That revenue would have to be cut from the budget.
okay.
And so at the current time, we're just loading the truck and taking it out and the waste. And how much are we paying per load? $78? Was it
70, 75?
$75?
Yeah, it's $75.
Let's make sure the truck's full.
Oh, they're bringing it back, pushing it down and then putting more in it.
Yeah. And that will probably be our best way to go, the cheapest. Have you looked at that compared to when we get the other areas straightened out? Or,
Yeah, Lee puts together a kind of a look-see if we were going to do composting of that material properly, we'd have to buy a new loader. We'd have to get a better water supply down there. We'd have to fence the site, or we should with that. And he figured we would have to have somebody down there 3 days a week, pretty much for the full day, watering and measuring the temperature and then turning the piles as they go. And I should have printed that out and brought it with me, but it was quite expensive. It was far more expensive than just simply what we project as far as volume. The trucks going out to Alcali's a landfill. It's well over, it's double that amount.
I'd like to see some figures on paper about that, broken down to study it.
And would that be saleable material once it's properly composted?
Right. So we will not be able to use that site.
Depends what you want to use it for, Louise. You know, it's been suggested maybe we do fence it and that'd be our dog park.
My concern is this: the citizens of this town thought for all these years that things were being taken care of properly. They counted on the town doing the right thing. And all of a sudden, they're seeing this huge increase because we did not take care of business. Something fell through the cracks and they're being penalized. And to me, that's wrong. You know, they counted on us. We pay people to do the right thing. And something went wrong. And all of a sudden, the state rolled in and our site is, you know, toxic. And so we have to spend all of this money. And the citizens of this town are asking the question, who was taking care of business? Where did it go wrong?
I think in a little bit of defense from what little bit that I know, I think a part of the defense for our employees that, we did think that everything was being done properly. But, and we got inspected every year and never got dinged for it. So I guess we went to the assumption, which is a bad word to use, went to the assumption that, yes, we are doing everything right. Well, I understand now that the person that came in and inspected us this year is an entirely new person. And you have to understand when you get new people in new positions, when they come out, they don't always read the regulations like everybody else do, or they want to enforce it more stricter than what the past administration did it. And that's what caught us. And I understand we got caught, Rocky Mount got caught, Tarboro got caught,
Nash County.
Nash County got caught, and it's all because of the new, well, I'm not gonna say because, but we would think it was because of the new inspector that came in and inspected everything. So everybody thought we were doing the right thing.
So do we challenge it? Or do we, you know, we're just eating it? And the citizens of Nashville are.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
And we were under the guise that everything was okay for so long.
I actually was able to reach out. It was kind of difficult because folks have been working from home, but I was able to get in touch with some other municipalities nearby just to get a feel for what their rates are as far as sanitation. We have one of the lowest rates, even, you know, as it is. Spring Hope's $20, and it does include sanitation and yard recycling and yard waste. Whitaker's is $20. Elm City's is the only one that's lower than ours, $17.53. City of Washington does an annual charge on their tax bill. I wasn't able to find out what that was. Wilson is $20. Henderson's $29. Town of Lewisburg, they just started doing it, and they do not include recycling in theirs, and their fee is $26.70. And Tarboro is $22. So even with the rate increases, we are still
Below everybody.
we're still lower or right in line with our neighbors. Just want to.
I'd like a breakdown on how much it's going to cost for us to take it to a landfill and how much it would be for us to continue dumping on our site is if it's cleaned up. And I'd like to see some figures.
And I understand that. My concern though, is suppose they come back another year and find something else wrong. And it cost us again, where will we take it out to Al's place or
We through with it.
we're through with it,
Yeah.
right?
I don't know. I've asked the employees, the public works guys several times about all this, and I even talked to Jamie about it. And, Jamie's first question was, who was the inspector this time? Because in the past, the only thing they ever got cited for is they had a pile of asphalt down there that they used in the reclaimer, and they were required to keep that tarped. So water didn't hit it and, it wouldn't leach out. He said that's the only thing they had on there, but over time, that stuff piled up down there. People didn't come and get it. And it sat there and it got crowded. And then that's when the street sweepings didn't have a decent place to put those, and they ended up getting put in with the yard waste material itself. Well, then when it had all that stuff in it, nobody wanted it. And then it just compounded from there. And the fact that in order to make good compost, you have to monitor that temperature of that compost very closely, water it, turn it. When it gets too hot, water again, turn it some more. So you have to have somebody on site pretty much all the time to keep an eye on that if you're going to end up with a final product of good compost that people would actually want.
Well, I would think at this time, the way we are with budgets and what's in front of us, that's going to require a new piece of equipment. It's going to require a new employee or movement of an employee. So I don't think we need to go down that alley right now.
Well, now that was part of the problem. You get busy with something else. It's very easy to say, you come back from the yard waste site, we need you all hands on deck for this.
Right.
And the next thing you know, it's been 3 weeks since anybody's been down there. That's the situation we found ourselves in.
And just to Louise's point, are any of these other entities that got fined just like we did, are they challenging it, or are they questioning why this year, or trying to work for a solution instead of just?
And Randy, can we look at our former inspection reports and see exactly where we went wrong? What was the difference this time
No.
than when we had the other inspect? If we look at those reports and see how it differed from this inspector.
We can, yes, we can.
I think we owe it to the citizens of Nashville before we launch into increases.
I can have Lee finish putting his numbers together and have those for us this afternoon. He gave me the initial numbers of gearing up so that we could do composting down there, but he didn't have an estimate of what the tonnage, or I shouldn't say tonnage, the number of truckloads. We've been doing it for 6-8 weeks now, so we got a pretty good idea how much material we're taking out to alkalis right now. And yes, Nash County has already cleaned up their site, because I talked to Alkali last Saturday, and he told me he just finished seeding their site after cleaning it all up.
How much have we spent in hauling off debris at this point?
Well, it's still that $75,000 amount. We haven't exceeded that. But there was about 20% more down there than Al originally figured. And then the material at the cemetery that he hauled down and covered over. We took down the old building out there. We were given permission to knock in the old clarifier and then fill that in with fill material. So it's not going to be level, but we're not going to have these obstructions sticking up here or there from the old sewer plant that were all over the place. All that's been covered up, and there were about 20% more material up at the cemetery than Al had originally figured in his estimate too. But he gave us a price not to exceed, and he's honoring that.
And Randy, I heard somewhere in a conversation that people aren't using the materials out there, the compost, like they did at one time. Is that true?
It is, but I think, Brenda, part of that is because we had street cleanings mixed in with it. And nobody wanted that plastic. You get those smash pop bottles and
Yeah,
everything, and they get caught in the storm sewer intakes, and we backed that out with the street sweeper, and they were ending up down there. And, maybe that material In the latter stages, I don't think it was true compost, it was partial compost.
Did the state give us an extension on cleanup?
We did, we were granted an extension.
So we haven't had to pay a penalty.
No,
What was the extended date, Randy?
they gave us a month, and then that Davy Connor said if we need more time, just ask, but we will have that all finished by the end of the month. I think about the last thing to do is seed it now.
Good.
Could we get a comparison on figures on how much it would cost to clean it up and use it as we have in the past, as opposed to hauling everything off?
Yes.
Back to you, Sam.
Well, okay, so just wanted to point out, so, you know, we didn't, if we decide not to increase the sanitation fees, we need to decrease the revenues in the budget. We probably would need to make some significant cuts in that sanitation budget to balance the budget. But I still do recommend that we increase at least the recycling fee to $5.35, simply to cover the contract. Otherwise, we're subsidizing that contract.
And that's a 14% increase. The recycling.
It increases from $4.50. So we've actually been at a 10-cent deficit this year.
Because of fuel.
Because it had gone up last year.
Yes. So I definitely don't want to, be at a deficit anymore. So we have to recover that 10-cent deficit as well as. So it's an 85-cent increase.
So I guess when I'm looking at the revenues, there are a lot of assumptions. We don't have any idea about sales tax, really. We can speculate. And we aren't sure about the Gully Fire District, so that's an assumption, and also the sanitation fee. So all those figures are assumptions that, we really can't count on.
Right, but this is all based on literature, research,
That's right.
professionals.
Other towns of our size, we're all kind of in the same boat, discussing with other towns of our size. We're a very stable economy here in the town of Nashville. We don't have very volatile businesses, that are shutting down left and right. If we lived in the city of Raleigh or Durham, they're really being hit hard. Whereas here, we're very stable. And so, yes, I do anticipate a decrease, but I do think that in the long run, we're going to remain stable, which is a good thing.
The other aspect of the sales tax too is there are various pieces. There's a local option sales tax, which is very strongly driven by retail sales, but then you've got telecom sales tax, which I don't think will be impacted as negatively, and the utility franchise sales tax also. Those may tend to hold stable or be just slightly down. I think the impact for us is going to come in the local sales tax. And we will be impacted, but I can tell you, Walmart here has not missed a beat since this thing started. I'm not saying their sales aren't down, but it would be interesting just to hear a comment from the manager of Walmart as to what he or she believes their situation has been. I mean, they may be able to even tell us. Certainly smaller businesses have been
I
impacted.
could certainly reach out. Worst case scenario would be the state would withhold one of our sales taxes. And I think there was some talk about them withholding the motor vehicle tax.
Right.
But at this time, that has not been decided, and as much lobbying, that has been going on, I just don't foresee the state going forward with that.
Another piece of the revenue, the 650,000 loan for the vehicles.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That includes the garbage truck.
It does. It includes the garbage truck as well as 2 vehicles for fire and 3 vehicles for police.
Okay. My question is in the past, we have never vehicles for the fire department, like, smaller vehicles, and for the police department, the automobiles that we buy every year. We've never taken out a loan for those. And the interest that would occur would be about 55,000.
Well, probably not. Probably not at this time. I budgeted very, very conservatively on that interest. Like I say, I budgeted at 3.25%. I highly doubt. I've been reaching out. They're getting under 2%, 1.9% right now. Other places are getting. I just don't think it's going to be 3.2%.
I asked that very same question both to Randy and to Sam about the vehicles and stuff. The way I look at it, and I could be wrong, I'm not a mathematician. We take a police car, we're gonna do three, always do 3 a year. And the 2 small vehicles for the fire department, whatever. I'm just not on board with taking a car that we're gonna have the same situation next year. We're gonna take these 3 police cars and we're gonna finance them out for the length of the loan, which is 10 to 15 years. I don't care what the
And
rate
5
is.
years. It's 5
years.
Well, for 5 years. Okay, we're gonna do it for 5 years. Okay, next year, we'll have about 3 more. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna finance them for 5 years. So every year we got a new loan stretched out and the interest is compounding when you keep doing that. I'm all for go ahead and these small price vehicles, like a police car is not small, but it's small compared to a garbage truck. These vehicles that we got to replace every year, that we just go ahead and pay for.
I agree with you.
No,
Excuse me, go ahead.
No, you
honey.
go ahead,
Go
please,
ahead.
please, I'll wait.
Go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, is that really the plan for us to
No.
continue to do that? I
No.
thought this was the 1 year just because of
Yeah.
these circumstances.
That's right. And, honestly, the rates are just so low. And
If we're looking at 1.5,
we're trying to honestly get some debt, easy debt on our books that we can easily repay. In fact, police and fire have both applied for some significant grants this year. And one of the things they look at is, do we have debt on the books? It's very difficult to get any grants, which is free money if you don't have any debt whatsoever. So I was just trying to find an easy way of getting some debt on the books that would not be a burden to the town or anything like that.
I still think we need to be very careful. And I have a question, and I'm not an accountant. But we have a good fund balance and we might have to use a lot of it this year. Why can't we use that as our bank and take some out of that and pay it back and then we won't have to pay interest? I mean, I don't know if that's feasible, but
It's certainly an option. It's definitely on my itinerary for council to discuss and decide how we want to move forward with that. Do we want to
I was,
use the debt or do we want fund balance?
I thought we had some money set aside for the garbage truck.
There
We
it is,
do.
it's 183,000,
Okay,
how much did you say?
183,000.
okay, we're looking
And
at
boy, do we
380.
need that.
Okay, so if we were looking at a price of 380 for the
Garbage truck.
garbage truck, we don't know for sure, but that was the price that was given. And so if we subtract 183 from that,
My recommendation is that we don't spend the cash. Honestly. If you can get a loan at a very, very great interest rate. Or just keep
But
cash.
what will that add up to, even that low interest rate over the years? See, I have never been one that likes debt, so I'm coming from that angle. But how much would it be over the years if we add, even though it's a small amount of interest, how much more are we going to be paying on something that expensive? And I don't know, that's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, so I had included in the debt outlook tab, the very last tab. Very, very conservative. At 3.25%. I don't think that it's. So the very top item there is the vehicle installment loan. You see the interest paid in fiscal year 2021 would be.
What page is that?
It is 282. It's the very, it's.
282.
Yes.
Okay.
In the book.
Okay, go ahead.
To totally finance all of the vehicles that are proposed here at 3.25% at 5 years. That first year will be 19,000.
And if you add up all 5 years, it comes to 649,000.
the interest is about 55,000.
That's for all of it.
All right.
and that's at 3.25.
2,000.
In the past, we have always tried to get loans for large vehicles like the sewer vac, fire, the,
Yeah. And if council didn't want to move forward with financing the smaller vehicles, I would at least recommend possibly financing the garbage truck. It's a large piece of
I
equipment.
can see financing that very easily. I mean, absolutely. But these smaller cars, I don't know. I just feel like if we borrow it from our fund balance and pay it back, we won't have that 19,000 that just goes somewhere else. Excuse me, go ahead.
But there is what you had brought up with obtaining grants. And so if we have no debt, that will be grants that we don't receive. So that is something that we do have to think about. And I'm with you. I think if we have the money, use the money that we have, especially for these smaller things. But if the interest rate truly is going to be in the ones, where we can cut that in half essentially, and we can obtain grants because of that, we might be in a better situation. If that's truly something that they really focus on, whether we have debt for those departments.
Lynn.
I concur with what Kate's saying also, Mayor. And it's truly a balancing act. I know exactly what Sam's talking about when LGC and loaning entities are looking at you. They're looking, even though we're local government, they're looking at our financials somewhat like a business. They want to see that there is a balance there. Local government commission is going to look at our fund balance and make sure we are maintaining healthy levels. Now, maybe ours is a little bit better than healthy right now, but we also don't know what next year will bring
Right.
in that regard. I think it's about finding that balance with some debt and also maybe some use of fund balance, but at the same time, we don't want to continually hit the fund balance, but keep that at a necessary level also.
And I understand. I just don't, go ahead.
Go ahead, man.
I feel like, I don't know, I just don't like debt. I never have. And I just think when you, like it says, when you're in debt to somebody, you're under their control. And I just, I wonder how much all these grants, how much debt you have to get these grants. You know, what's the breaking point where you just have some debt and no debt? He was next. Go
Well,
ahead.
I mean, and I understand totally what Sam is trying to do for us. And I agree, if you don't have any loan, I mean, any debt, then people that you're trying to get grants from are gonna say, well, why should I grant you this grant when you don't owe anybody, you got money. But look at what we're gonna end up with. We got a garbage truck that we're gonna have to pay for long term. We've got a sewer jet vac truck would probably be a long term. We've got a fire department that we're talking about, definitely gonna be long term. So I think both of those, all three of those are pretty high dollar items that I think would satisfy showing that we do have a good debt level, but leaving the cards out and using fund balance, then how much of a balancing act, like she just said, that they're gonna look at, well, if we pay for the cars and stuff, yeah, we're putting something fund balance, using that, and then we got three big items here, which we may have more than three for long term. So I think we are trying to balance them out.
But you know what? I would think that they would look at how wise we are all together when they give us grants. You know, and if we are wise and we've managed our money great and we don't have debt, it looks like that would be the people I'd want to give grants to because they were very,
Right.
excuse me.
Yeah, it seems like you're being penalized for living within your means.
Right,
doing the
yeah.
right
They're
thing.
saying that the investment's just not there.
Yeah.
And that's why. So
They're saying what, Sam?
they just want to see that the town is invested. You know, and that's how you show that you're invested.
Our sewer vac truck we have an interest rate of 1.84 that we're soon to be
Paid off.
Our last garbage truck, our interest rate was 2.81. I mean, excellent interest rate. So large vehicles, we have tried to buy on time with a really good interest rate, which makes sense. But the smaller vehicles, you know, in other words, the life of a police automobile vehicle is not going to be what a garbage truck is. A garbage truck is about 10 years.
Mhm.
So
Police car, you're gonna have to buy some every year.
exactly, 3. And also I'm concerned about, okay, there were 3 police vehicles for 165, right? 160.
Well, they,
Yeah.
yes. They were, the reason for the increase, last year, past years, we were able to buy chargers for cars. This year, chargers are just not available. They're not making them this year. So we're proposing to purchase trucks. They have determined that they've got a need for trucks. And so since the chargers are not available, it's a good time to go ahead and buy the trucks.
I thought we started with trucks last year, didn't we?
They started,
About one.
we bought one.
Okay.
Okay, are these double cabs so that you can get people in? I mean, if you
They're
have to-
SUVs
okay,
that you see.
okay,
They're
SUVs. So they're not trucks.
They're not they're not
They're
pickup
proposing to
trucks.
purchase trucks.
Pickups.
Pickup trucks.
Oh, you're proposing to purchase trucks,
They're proposing-
Three
What's the
pickup trucks?
reasoning behind that?
double cab trucks?
Yes.
Oh, I thought we were doing SUVs. So we're doing
Okay.
trucks.
Is this for the rank and file of the police department or for the heads of the police department? I mean, tell me about these trucks.
So one of them would be, we can call Chief Bucket, he can explain what his plan is with the trucks. One of them is for one of the department heads, but for the other two, I believe it's just for staff. It's for hauling. We do have a need for them, as far as some of the heavy duty tasks that they do.
Lynn, I have a question. You said that the chargers aren't available. Are there other police rated or style cars that are available?
According
It
to
used to
Chief
be
Bucket, no,
Chevrolets.
not at this time. There's no one who makes them right now. Used to be Ford would make like the Interceptor style. They're not making those anymore.
They're not. Charges are coming offline. You're gonna see highway patrolmen going from charges to whatever they choose. If you look at our sheriff's department running around, they've got more and more of their deputies riding around in SUVs.
SUVs are what I was expecting.
SUVs
see it.
and
Right.
a few pickup trucks. Now, I can see SUVs, but the pickup trucks, from what I've seen, most of their lieutenants, now used to be sergeants, lieutenants in charge of shifts, they're driving around in pickup trucks. Pickup trucks are more versatile, and that's why a lot of them are going to them. In the wintertime. In the past, when I worked for the sheriff's office, when the snow fell and the weather got bad and the roads got rough, I'd park my patrol car and go get a four-wheel drive vehicle. You know, but if you already got trucks, then you can haul stuff. You don't have to call anybody to come pick up recovered property. You put them in there, and they have their advantages. But I'm just not. Well, I'm not in the game anymore. I'm not doing it. So.
It's kind of, again, I wouldn't recommend a whole fleet of trucks.
Right. I don't want to see a whole fleet. I don't want to see a whole fleet of trucks. I don't. You
But
know.
this time, they don't have, the cars just aren't available.
No, the cars,
They
the
have
chargers and the.
trucks, and they have a need for the hauling and towing
Yeah.
aspect of it.
And I can see spending money for the people out doing the hard work, in the cars, but I don't want to just waste our money. And I have a question for you. You know our jet vac that we're going to get? That we were
Yes.
talking about? Why can't we get that out of our enterprise money?
It is.
Is that
it's
where-
gonna-
Is that where it's going to come
Yes,
from?
ma'am.
Okay, I didn't understand that. So it is, so we aren't borrowing for that.
No.
Okay,
Oh, I thought we were.
I thought we were too. I thought
That
we
was
were
one
borrowing
of
for
the
that.
items
too.
I thought we were going
Yeah.
to finance.
Okay, good. So that's coming out of, so we won't have to borrow for that. You know what I think we need personally? I think the more grants you write, the more money you get. And I'm not so sure we don't need to get us a good grant
A grant
writer.
writer.
Because I know from my background, that's where we got a lot of money. We had good grant writers that knew how to write grants, and we didn't have to have a debt to get the money. We got good money. So maybe we haven't been writing that many grants, have we? Let's say, how many grants have we written over the past 6 months?
Well, I think the fire department is writing their grants, but there's
Yeah.
normal grants that come about.
Right.
But they're,
Fire and police have written several.
they're writing grants. They are. But there,
Marguerite would write a bunch.
but there are, Marguerite, and there are grants out there that we probably not tapping into that a grant writer would know to do. But when you're writing grants and stuff, is when you write it, you put all the information in there, and they're looking for one key word that a grant writer would know what to stick in there, to catch them.
And we have had,
Lynn was next, please.
Okay. I agree that having some grants written, what you're going to find, I think, is on the level of the police and fire and that sort of thing, the grants don't tend to be as big, but when you get into
Right.
something like utilities, water sewer projects and that type of thing, that's where you can really get some big
Right.
grant dollars. I mean, $1 million or more. And that's why I agree that getting some debt on the books is going to be beneficial to us and helping us to secure some of those really big dollar
And I
grants.
think if we get, debt for these big items, that will give us some debt, but
Well, water and sewer fund is almost a whole other animal. I was able to go to the training at the school of government just a few months ago. What they're looking for, the grant writers are looking for in the water and sewer fund is us doing some infrastructure projects. So issuing debt or paying cash, whatever, we need to do some major infrastructure projects. They want to see that investment. We just haven't done any in a while.
We have done those in the past, and we had a professional grant writer to do it for us. And we've worked with them, and every time they applied for grant, we got them. And it was because you have to pay for it, but it pays for itself in the end.
Who do we have?
You come
What's
out
the
on
cost?
top if you can get
Do you know
to
the cost of it? Sorry,
Go ahead, go ahead.
I
the
don't-
cost of the grant writer, or any idea?
I don't.
That's something that we should
but,
look into.
you know, But people who do it for a living,
Mhm.
And
They-
know the key
Know what to put
words.
in there.
That's the
Yeah.
trick,
Yeah, know
knowing
what
the
to put in
key
there.
words. Okay, Sam, sorry.
Okay, so is everybody in agreement with the revenues? Like I say, if we're gonna, I would like to discuss the fees and kind of make some decisions on that, because we're gonna determine how we're gonna move forward. If we don't wanna raise the fees, and we're gonna have to cut out that revenue. We're gonna have
I had a question
to Add
about
fund
this.
balance or make some significant other cuts.
Wait.
What page are the fees on, Sam?
Oh, the revenues?
Yes, because I think I had a question about
So our
fees.
fees,
Yes.
well, so that's actually in, come toward the front.
We're
Under
looking at the
fee
body.
schedule.
Page 79 is the revenues that I'm looking at. Larry, you're looking at something different.
Yeah,
Are we looking at fees then?
I had something up here that I want to question.
Schedules start on page 23.
Okay, so that very first page on page 23. These are our public utilities administrative fees. The only proposed change on that is just $150 with that social security number. So I just want to confirm everybody's in agreement. We've been able to raise that fee.
One other thing on page 23, you see a impact fee, less than 3/4 tap, sewer system impact fee. School government, of course, I went to, impact fees are taboo anymore.
Mm.
And nobody can tell me what we were ever charging anybody a 3/4 inch sewer tap impact fee. No sewer line is 3/4 inch, they're all 4 or larger, so we
So-
never,
It was my understanding that those fees were actually for the meters themselves. For the tap. It's just to cover the cost of the tap itself. So if we're charging in that manner, then it's acceptable.
Should it
We
be
just-
should it be renamed?
Yes, it should.
Yeah, because that is very misleading.
but again, talking with Samantha and Yvette, they can't recall ever preparing a building to somebody for those impact fees.
It's very rare.
So I guess my recommendation to the council would be to remove those. We've never billed anybody for them.
Yeah, I'm on page 20, on page 25. Almost in the middle of the page where it says, white good pickups. We've got a $15 charge for white good, but then you go in the proposed change, bulk rate would be $15 first item. Then you got 8 items, $8 each additional item. And then right below it, appliances, $10 per appliance. The $8 for each additional item. What are the additional items? Would be white goods, refrigerators, stoves and stuff like that. What else would be an additional item?
Furniture, any other kind of furniture,
You're not gonna charge them for each individual piece of furniture to sit out there, are you?
well,
I set a chair and a sofa out, so you gonna charge me $10 for each one?
probably not.
I think the $8 each additional item should be removed and just use the $10 per appliance. I mean, it's kind of complicated right in there, if you understand what I'm saying. Each additional item, what additional item are we talking about? Most additional items are gonna be white goods. Unless I'm missing something.
Mayor, is that referencing, suppose I buy a new washer and dryer, you've got 2 items. Are you going to charge for each item, or is one trip considered a one-time fee of $15?
I believe it was Lee's assumption that each item would be charged.
Okay, I wonder if that's what that means, that, say I put a washer and dryer, the first one, they're gonna charge me 15, but only 8 for the second one, rather than 30 for both. Is that potentially what it could be?
It may be.
I just wanted to say, currently, we're not even charging, we haven't been charging. The fee's been on the books, but we haven't actually been charging. And so kind of one of those things. We need to start enforcing that policy and get that.
The other thing on that page 25, the yard trash / flatbed load. One thing I'd like to propose to the council is that there are a few individuals who take down a dozen trees and 3 of their neighbors and put it all at the curb.
Right.
And then they call every week for 3 weeks complaining that it's not gone, that it's there. There was one a couple weeks ago, the guy spent, and I kid you not, 2.5 days pulling crap out of that pile and running it through the chipper. 2 guys, a truck, a chipper for 2.5 days before they got that pile. And I wish I would have known about it. You know, they have instructions now to let Lee and I know about it, and we'll simply call that homeowner and say, this is not the intent of the program here.
Mhm.
You hired somebody to take those trees down, you hire them to take.
They
it
take,
away.
to clean it up.
It's above and beyond. But I would like to see that at a minimum, $125. If we're going to spend time with our guys there when they could be doing other things. And the problem is when the pile gets that big, you know, everything has to be pulled out by hand. And you can see the guys up there like this pulling things out. And,
I actually saw them.
and a slip and a fall, and we have a work comp
Yep.
entry, and then, you know, no good deed goes unpunished, so to speak.
I thought that was a little extreme, all that debris out by the street there.
Yeah. I'm
We've
glad
been
that-
lax on that for so many years and people have taken advantage. I've seen people clearing lots and everything that's cleared comes to the street and the town picks it up and that's taking advantage.
It's probably our own fault. You know, again, it's one of those things I asked the guys, how did we get to this point? Well, you know, we didn't pick it up and we didn't pick it up because it was too much. And then we get a call from town hall or one of the council members to go pick it up. So we just save time and we go pick it up.
So you want the 25 to go to 125?
We proposed 40 here.
I know Lee proposed 40 there, but
Okay.
you know, in light of those big piles that they've been having to deal with, $125, I mean, for $40, you're not going to get anybody to come and clean that up yourself. But at 125, yeah, you might.
So it is more of a deterrent. You want them to just use the source that they use to cut it down to clear it versus our guys having to go out there and.
Right.
risk
I
injury.
think it maintains the integrity and the point for which the council in the past has put this service into place. It wasn't to get somebody off very inexpensively for clearing an entire lot. It was put out there as a point of convenience. You got a few limbs, a few trees. You know, we had a wind gust come through and take some stuff down, put it out the curb, we'll take care of it. But, you know, if it's a flatbed load, and that is a lot of material.
Well, yeah, I look at yard trash as being shrubbery clippings.
Right.
The trees some tree got blew down during a storm and we cut it up and stuck it out there. But we do have some people that are clearing a lot, cutting down trees, cutting them in 4-foot lengths, 6-foot lengths, and sticking them out there for somebody to pick up. And there is a guy right here in town, he'll cut down everything and won't move nothing away.
It seems like there needs to be some better customer education just in general with these items.
Yeah,
Town of Lewisburg has a really good policy I was reading through. I mean, they don't allow for that. I mean, they just simply won't pick it up.
mhm.
It's in their policy. I think maybe just the policy itself needs to be,
Maybe we need to look at
Explain
some of
more.
our
Yeah.
policies on
Need to
that.
be
Need to
explained.
clarify.
it's been
Exactly.
such a long practice where some of these
Okay,
items, they
10:30,
call,
thanks.
they expect we're going to come pick it up and they don't expect to be charged. It's just gonna be a customer education aspect to, hey, you want the service, there is a fee for the service.
Well, we want to serve our citizens, but we don't want to be taken advantage of. I mean, because if someone does that, then we aren't equally distributing our energies to other to all the citizens. So I think we really need to revisit our policy on that, Sam.
So do we want to, for now, bulk pick up $50 first item, $8 each additional item, and then 125, do we want to increase that fee to 125?
What do you think, council?
Let's do 100.
I think 100.
Let's do 100.
100. Is that agreeable, Lynn?
Change it to
And-
100.
And Kate?
Yes.
We did,
And 100, and when they call for it to be picked up, explain to them, what do you have out there that needs to be picked up?
Right.
Now, if it's trees and stuff like that, it's gonna be $100 supposed to come out there and pick up. But if you just got regular yard clippings and stuff like that, we just picked it up as normal.
Okay. Mr. Buck?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Joe.
so they just had some questions about
First with the trucks.
the trucks.
Right.
Well, the reason we're looking at trucks, we're trying to put an array of vehicles on the fleet. Blooming Festival, we haul 4 or 5 different trailers worth full of cones. We only have one truck. We've got one truck hauling those cones. We've got more trucks. We've got more vehicles that can haul those trailers, which makes it a little bit easier to set those vehicles up. The other thing is large pieces of evidence, bicycles, things of that nature. When officers are on patrol, they can put those items in the truck. One example is when we needed a truck was Friday, the chicken sale that the county had. Sergeant Withrow was working. He didn't have accessibility to a truck. We needed a truck to haul cones up there to make it easier for people to get in and out and to hook up to the cone trailer or to put the cones in the back of the truck. He didn't have a truck accessible. So that made it more difficult. We don't have, but that one truck that we have now accessible to us, we don't have that vehicle to do things like that.
That was for the county?
Ma'am,
That was for the county?
yes, ma'am, that was for the county employees.
Why didn't the county help us out?
Well, my philosophy is if it's in the town of Nashville, it falls under the realm of the police department. They didn't actually request our help, but it's in the town limits of Nashville. So it's our job to make sure that the citizens are safe in Nashville. So I offered assistance.
That was the second time that they'd had.
Yes, ma'am, it was the second time. It was a pre-order. The first time they ran out of chicken, this was a pre-order event. And it was a whole lot more troublesome this time than it was the first time. But we got through it, with no injuries, anything like that, so.
And they say they're not gonna do a pre-order anymore. Pre-orders are over.
Right. And I'll gladly talk to you about that later, but yeah, you're right.
I have a question. How many, looking down the road, how many trucks, pickup trucks, are you anticipating that you want to have on the department? Because the reason I asked that question,
Yes.
I understand why you need them and what you're asking for them, but I don't want our department to turn into a pickup truck department.
No, sir. I think we need a wide array of vehicles.
How many in the end are you looking to have?
Well, I mean,
I
right
see
now,
about 4 here.
yeah, right now, that would put us at 4. So, right now.
And we got 17 vehicles, right?
17, yeah, 17 positions. So
Uh-huh.
I'm looking at 1 or 2 per shift. I think we need a different array of vehicles, SUV, a car, and a truck, because every one has its specific purposes.
Mhm.
Just like we do not have, and I hate to call them cages, but transport cages in our vehicles.
Right.
We don't have transport cages. We only have 2 vehicles that have transport cages. An older model Crown Victoria, which I'm hoping to take out of service,
Right.
and a new Ford Interceptor. And I think we need to have transport cages in at least 1 or 2 vehicles on every shift for the purpose of if you have an unruly prisoner.
Officer
put them
safety.
in the back- Officer safety, put them in the back of the vehicle. And that's something we're looking at going to. But I don't believe that every vehicle should have a transport vehicle because somebody such as myself who's big and fat, it's hard to fit in that vehicle with that transport cage behind the vehicle. And I mean, you're in law enforcement, you understand that seat doesn't slide far enough.
Right. It does.
But those are some of the safety features in the future that we're looking at. But this helps us now since we're replacing these vehicles. And that's why I'm looking at the truck.
I do also want to point out, because we can spec out just about, I've shown this to you way back in January. The entire vehicle replacement schedule with the entire costs and everything. We had spec'd out all these vehicles. So an SUV, which would be the other alternative option, would be a Ford. It's just the difference between a Ford and a Dodge too, some of this. A Ford Explorer was spec'ing out at about 35,000 at the time.
Because you got to remember, the cars are not available this year.
Whereas,
Off charges are not available this year.
whereas a Dodge 2500, which is a truck, picking out about 31. So
But we don't know what's going to be available. You know, to be pursuit rated, it has to be a Ford F-150 to be pursuit rated. The Dodges are not pursuit rated. So we put them on patrol for them to be pursuit rated, which means they had the pursuit tires, the beefier tires, the beefier brakes. And it's a safety feature as well. They're about 38. So we're speccing out about 38 per vehicle.
So the trucks can't be used as pursuit vehicles.
The Ford trucks, yes, ma'am.
The Ford trucks can.
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
and a Ford F-150 is specking out at about 37.
So 37 is some change.
So
38,
really no difference in the
37.
SUV versus.
It's very
the truck.
little.
It's very little difference.
Okay.
And this year with the cars not being available, because the cars are normally about 20, 25, 26, but the cars are not available this year because Dodge is the only dealer that makes the vehicles, the cars, and they're not available until 2021.
In the past, we would get about 3 cars a year, but around 98,000. And that was before outfitting them.
Yes, ma'am, that was before the outfit, and that didn't include, because this price you're seeing includes all of the equipment and everything, so it's everything. bundled
Completely
together.
outfitted then.
That's right.
Yes,
The-
ma'am.
The
And-
radios were, it used to be in a different line.
Right, and the rotation that we were on, that you and I have spoke about in the past, we were supposed to get 4 this year. We got 3 last year, it's supposed to be 4 this year, and it's supposed to be 2 next year. But because of the budget and because of the pandemic we're in, you know, we asked for 3. That's why.
Are we gonna buy them right out? Or are we gonna piggyback with another department?
I'm sorry, say again?
Are we gonna buy them right out? Or are we gonna try to piggyback with another
Well,
department?
yes, there's state contract,
Okay,
state contract price, so it's gonna be the same way. No matter how we go, it's gonna be the same price.
Are the trucks assigned to specific people or?
Yes, ma'am. All of the vehicles in the police department assigned to specific people. We have pictures of the vehicles, and if it has a scratch on the vehicle, we know that that scratch is there. That way, if something happens to that vehicle, they can't say, well, I didn't do it. You did. So, but yes, ma'am, all the vehicles will be assigned to specific people.
So who would be getting the trucks, the guys at the top or?
Well, at that point, we don't know yet. We have 4 Crown Victorias right now in the fleet. And all 4 of those have over 100,000 miles. We have 2 Ford Interceptors, 2013. They have more than 90,000 miles. And we have a 2008 Honda that has 160,000 miles. So those vehicles depended upon, and looking at the service history, the 4 Crown Victorias are the ones that are giving us the most trouble. So those are the vehicles that will be replaced. Obviously, my philosophy is we don't give a brand new vehicle to a brand new officer. You know, so
Right.
to answer your question, yes, ma'am, it would be based on seniority.
now that Honda was a drug recovery vehicle, wasn't it? That was a seizure vehicle.
You're asking me a question I can't answer.
It was a seizure
Okay.
vehicle. Mhm.
Do we get,
Sorry. no, you
do
go.
we get money from drug seizures, our town? Very much.
To answer it the most direct way I can, if we go through the DEA and do asset forfeiture, we can get up to 80% depending on whether or not we're working in conjunction with other agencies. If they do not go through federal prosecution and they go through state prosecution, that money is returned to the
Education.
For school system.
Education.
And my hope is that, as a matter of fact, we served a search warrant this morning. So my hope is that we're going to team up and do more joint efforts with the Sheriff's Department, with Rocky Mountain Police Department and other agencies in order to, you know, the main goal is not for the asset forfeiture.
Right.
The main goal is to get the drug off the street.
Right.
However, when that plays a role, then we want the money to go back into law enforcement. as much as possible.
Exactly, and give you more.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Did you have a question?
I was just going to ask, while we have him here,
Okay.
would you mind if we just asked any police questions that we had in going through the budget, just so we don't have to
Fine with me.
call him back in later? Okay. So just going through the line item budget for police
Oh, yeah.
on page 86.
Okay, thank you.
The increase in salaries and wages. Is that new officers on? Is that, Sam, do you see what I'm talking about? So it looks like a $91,000 increase. Is that just because we're fully staffed?
That is, and it's also, yes.
Okay, all right.
We did
So,
not- We did not fund. They actually requested.
right,
So we did not fund.
right, okay. In ancillary,
Telephone, postage, and internet.
okay, so in the description in the back, it says 15,500 is for telephone, postage, and internet, but then we have 21,000 here.
That's what we're recommending. So I did have to do some cleanup because, I have the exact figures of how much the VC3 phone, how much the internet, how much their cell phones cost, and postage.
Okay,
I can tell you,
Yeah, I will tell you that part of the reason is ancillary. Part of the reason that increased is because what we did is we issued phones to all of the supervisors.
okay.
Well,
Oh, yes, I saw that the cell phone had
Right, in
increased.
the past, they did not have phones, and we
Okay.
also issued Wi-Fi boxes to all of the police officers because the officers were coming to the police department, having to check out the Wi-Fi box. And they had, I don't know, 6, I guess, but they had to get the Wi-Fi box before they went on patrol. Well, that prevents them from being able to create traffic stops and run those names and stuff while they're on the way to work.
Okay.
When they get in the car to come into town, I want them 10-8 ready to go.
Okay.
And if I can, Mr. Taylor, the vehicle was actually purchased from Craigslist, that 2008 Honda. So it was a purchase vehicle. Sorry.
so that includes Verizon, 14,700. That's all their cell phones and all the air cards.
Okay,
It includes the VC3 phone. 43,000, 4,300. It includes internet charges of $560. And the rest is just miscellaneous postage.
okay. I wanted to go through, and I don't think that I'm quite questioning your requests. I just need a little bit more info. For, let's see. I was confused where the rifles that you were requesting got put, whether it was in supplies or in law enforcement equipment. Both of those were similar at 15,000, I think it was.
I moved all that to law enforcement. So I'm trying to make a designation. Supplies is your office supplies, your miscellaneous supplies that are very generic. I wanted to break out things that are specific to that department, law
Okay.
enforcement.
So the supplies is going to be your staplers, paper, all the stuff that you need in the
Yes, ma'am.
office.
Yes, Sam and I
And then
had a
your-
conversation, and she's trying to, that way
Okay.
we can track what we purchased that are
Got
specific
it.
to law.
Okay, so law enforcement equipment, that's going to be where the rifles, the ammo, the cartridges. For the, okay. In uniforms, let's see, page 172 is where you gave your explanation. So that one has gone up. It says it was 10,000 to 15, but now the budget actually says 20,000. So that was an additional 5,000 that I didn't really see in the explanation as far as where it would go. And then my other question is with the dress hats.
Part of it is the dress hats. The dress hats are about $300 a piece by the time you buy everything for the hat.
So now this is like a dress uniform hat.
Well, no, well, yes, ma'am. It's a dress hat, but if we go to if we go to a ceremony or we go to an officer's funeral or peace officer's memorial, I don't want to be the department out there without the hat. Because you have to respect that person. And in order to show proper respect, you need to be dressed accordingly. So we're looking at the dress hat because nobody has any hats. at this point.
Campaign hats,
173.
Right.
campaign hats, and they are
They're
expensive.
about $350 a piece by the time you purchase them.
Okay. All right, so that one, I guess my question still remains, and that might be a Sam question, where it just had simply said that it was going from 10 to 15 for that increase of $5,000. But then in the budget, it says 20,000.
Yes, I have his request at 15, and just during the budget meetings, during the discussions, it was determined probably going to need 20. We have to spend almost 40,000 this year.
Looking at the
Right.
needs, they had no big boy uniforms. So we had to purchase new uniforms. So we purchased pretty much everybody that we've hired new uniforms, but because we didn't have any that would fit them.
Okay.
So going forward, we don't have any additional uniforms. If something happens to one of their uniforms, we don't have anything else to give them.
Okay.
So they have the bare minimum at this point to get them through the year. And also, you know, I don't anticipate any new hires because I don't
Right.
anticipate anybody leaving. However, if we have those vacancies, we have to purchase those uniforms as well, but we have to have extras on hand. At this point, we don't have any extras on hand.
The law enforcement uniforms are quite,
Expensive.
they're expensive because they include a lot of, I would say, I would call accessories, you know. Those were being purchased out of, I'll just be honest, I can see that they were just being purchased out of whatever line item there was money.
Okay.
I'm trying to show how much is being spent on. these
Just uniforms.
really,
Okay.
you know, realistically.
And right now, everybody needs at least one dress uniform, and everybody doesn't have at least one dress uniform.
Okay.
So that was the reason for the slight increase as well. We went to a Class B uniform, since we had to purchase new uniforms anyway, because it's more durable,
Mhm.
it lasts longer, and it's a little bit cheaper. But everybody, obviously, you know, if we come to a ceremony here at the town hall, anywhere else, we need a dress uniform. If they go to Superior Court, they need a dress uniform.
Okay.
Right now, there's very few that have a tie. We don't even have ties.
Okay.
I'm using a tie that I have because we don't have it.
My next question goes to the plainclothes allowance. And while I understand this, I just wanted a breakdown of who would be getting this and how much would be allocated to each position.
Well, now I will say that when we put it in there, we were anticipating having that third position, but we were looking at $500 per person. $500 is enough for each officer to have a suit, at least one suit, and then have dress uniform. Detective Jones, when he comes to work in a pair of slacks, a shirt and a tie. You know, and he has that professional look. When you go knocking on somebody's door and they're a victim, we need to make sure that, you know, we look professional as possible. So it would be Detective Jones and Sergeant Shopley that have these plainclothes allowance right now.
Okay. With regard to the request for the drug enforcement increase, and it looks like we didn't go the full 8. I think, Randy, you put in 5 maybe for that? Or 6?
I think Sam can
We're gonna
explain
start
that
with
because
5.
Well, I'm fine with the increase in the money. This is something that I think we're all on the same page.
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
very important that we get drugs out of Nashville. My question is, are we working as closely as we could be with the Sheriff's Department, the Tar River Task Force, the Rocky Mount PD, in working with us? to
yes,
do
ma'am.
these
Nash
things?
County Sheriff's Office, Rocky Mount Police Department, we're actually there on the search warrant we did this morning.
Okay.
So we're working in conjunction with them, and we're thankful to have their assistance because obviously it's like I explained to them this morning, Nashville can't do it by themselves, Rocky Mount can't do it by themselves, Nash County can't do it by themselves. We have to all work accordingly. And, you know, the Sheriff's Office graciously is working with us as well as Rocky Mount. And we started the search warrant this morning with their assistance.
Okay,
So we are
wonderful.
working with all of those. But what we've been doing in the past is because of a lot of dollars that we've had in drug expenditures, we've been relying on
On
other
that.
departments and they've been assisting us, but we need to be able to put forth some effort as well.
Okay.
Were we successful this morning?
Yes, sir.
Good job.
My last question, and I'm sorry for monopolizing everyone's time. My last question is the Citizens Police Academy. If we could just hear some more about that.
Well, and that was the
That's on page
increase. that was the-
171.
That was the reason for the increase in the advertising budget. Was because of the Citizens Police Academy, basically what that is. And I don't know when I intend to put it on now. My intention initially was July 1st. But what that would be is a 6 or 8 week academy advertised to the citizens of Nashville, in and around Nashville. It would be 1 night a week, 2 hours a night. And we would have 8 or 9 blocks of instruction on what we actually do in law enforcement. But it's a twofold situation. We win because we can teach the citizens what we do, but the citizens win because they learn more about what we do. And it's community engagement.
Mhm.
And the reason for the increase was we wanted to purchase polos for the Citizens Police Academy. And then hopefully in the future, when we have the Blooming Festival and these events, these citizens that volunteered will continue to volunteer. And there'll be police department volunteers. But, you know, I don't know when we would be able to put that on now because of this pandemic,
Mhm.
but this year at some point, I already have the lesson plan laid out. You know, I haven't given it to the town manager yet because of everything else going on, but I already have everything laid out, ready to go. It's just a matter of when we can press the button.
Wonderful.
I'd like to,
Go ahead.
I'd like to assist you on that, Clay.
Oh, yes, sir.
Chief, I had one question about the software. I didn't see anything in the description. Maybe I just
That's
overlooked it.
on my sheet. I'm so glad you just.
It's annual maintenance for that Zerker. This is the part that came out in the budget
Okay.
discussions.
All right.
and,
I remember now. I remember. I'm good.
So the annual maintenance is 29,000.
That's what we budgeted, yeah.
Is that the VC?
Zerker, it's annual maintenance for Zerker, which includes 20 licenses and also includes the annual maintenance for that Finley software.
It's right, it's the CAD and everything in the car, because we have CAD in the cars now. So it's the CAD in the car and the licenses to run the software through Zerker. The actual server is maintained by the county, so we don't have to maintain, actually it's maintained by Zerker at the county. But it's the annual licenses to run the software and support and VC3.
Will this increase annually or?
It may potentially, but at this point, this is the price we've got for this year.
I have a question about dues and subscriptions. It went up to 5,125.
That would include, and that was, I think that was part of the reason that the drug request was brought back a little bit, if I remember correctly. Sending Sergeant Shockley and as a drug investigator to OCDF conferences. And then in order to send administrators to leadership schools, such as the National Academy, such as the North Carolina Association Chiefs of Police Conference, things of that nature, you have to be members of those organizations. Normally those memberships are $250 to $300 a piece. My goal is to make sure that it's really good to train and to work with our regional partners. But in order to do proper networking and making sure that we have the proper training, a lot of times at those conferences, those trainings are put on for those individuals, and we have to pay the dues and memberships for those trainings.
And travel and training went from 2,000 to 10,000.
Yes, ma'am, and that's what it was
Mhm.
in 2018, 2019 was 10,000. And we increased it back to, well, we requested an increase back to 10,000 to make sure that we're providing training for all of the officers online.
Do you remember why that went down last year?
I think we were just trying to cut budget,
Right.
just trying to save.
Oh, and it was,
Huh?
I think part of it wasn't being used either.
Yeah,
okay.
and that was, and training was one of the reasons I'm sorry, you behind me, I forget to raise my hand.
Well, and when we send people to conferences and they have to have a hotel reservation, they have to have gas and travel, it would come out of that training budget. And as I've said, training at Nash Community College and Woodson Community College is really good training. But if we're going to increase our leadership within the agency, we have to do more advanced training. And they don't offer those advanced courses here locally. So we have to send people abroad to get that advanced training.
And training was one of the reasons we were losing officer one time.
The FBI has the FBI National Academy, but they also have other academies. And there's a trifecta you can get with the FBI. They don't offer it in North Carolina. They offer it in Georgia, Virginia, different states. So if we want to send our administrators to that training, we have to pay for it out of that budget. It's called LEADA, FBI LEADA.
Any other questions?
Equipment over 5,000.
Yes, ma'am. I believe that's the radio items. Radios that we currently have. Nash County was gracious enough to donate them to us when they upgraded their radios. However, the radios that we have, they no longer make parts for them effective January 2020. So we're having to transition and buy radios each year in order, because if one of the officers' radios breaks right now, Motorola doesn't make the parts for it.
So Chief Puckett, if I ask you, what is the state of our police department? What would you tell me?
We're happy to have a job and happy to be working. Every officer is fortunate enough, as well as most county employees. We are essential employees, and we're thankful for that. We serve at the pleasure and discretion of the council of the town, and we're as happy as we can be to serve the town. Morale is high, and we want to make sure that morale stays high. We were doing really good with the community with the active shooter training, and then this pandemic hit and it stopped everything. But it won't take long once this pandemic is over for us to get back involved into the community. It's difficult. These officers, when we went through this pandemic, obviously we became a whole lot more reactive and proactive because of the safety of the officers as well as everybody else. And they came to my office every day, hey, Chief, when can we go back out there? When can we get back in the community? And that's been a constant question every day. That's the officers that you have working for the town. And they're eager, they're young. And it's our job to make sure that they're properly trained and to make sure that they are involved in the community and they want to work for the community. So we're very fortunate to have the officers and administrators that we have in the police department.
But the pandemic does not keep you from patrolling.
Oh, no, ma'am, it doesn't. But as far as approaching people, if we're on Birchwood or if we're in Indian Trail, especially your older people, I have a special place in my heart for older people and younger people. That's just me. And a lot of you older people don't want to communicate during this pandemic because they're scared. So, the officers couldn't really be proactive in community policing. They could check the businesses and they could patrol the neighborhoods, but they like getting out talking to people. And that was, put a stop to with this pandemic. And they were ready to get back out there and be the police.
Patrolling is really
Oh,
important.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And they do.
And people need to see that. Citizens need to see it.
Well, just like the armed robbery, the press release I put out yesterday, Johnny on the spot within a matter of seconds. Officer Stone was there to stop that vehicle and take that person into custody. We had a larceny last week at Walmart. Officers were doing a security check and some idiot came in and stole some stuff while the officer was there parked in front of Walmart, and he got about 2 steps and he got arrested. So, it is being seen in the community, and that's what they do. They do a really good job of it. I'm very proud of the police department that we have.
And they have good attitudes.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
They're
They do.
friendly,
Yeah.
they smile, they make you proud. They really
They
do.
do. It makes me proud to be part of the Nashville Police Department because they make me look good. It's not me doing this. It's not Captain Winston. It's not Lieutenant Borkin. Patrol is the backbone of any police department, and it's them that make us look good.
And right now, all positions are filled.
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
Well, let them know how much we appreciate
I
them,
will.
please.
I will.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Y'all want a break? Could we take a break? Let's take about a 5 or 10 minute break. That'll be good.
Some snacks up on the counter there. There's coffee in the counter room. Restrooms in there. There's restrooms out here.
I think they're still recording. I called the code.
Finally
Yeah,
figured
wait.
it out. Took me a few minutes.
Oh, okay.
Has Griffin.
He's good. He was so cute this morning. So his nap time is like 9:15, pretty much 9:15 every day. Might vary like 8:45, 9:30, but he's pretty regular. And so I knew we were going to have a problem this morning because I needed to be here at 9. So I thought, well, maybe I can get him down a little bit early. He was so tired. His poor little eyes were red. He just wanted to go to sleep. But I didn't have time. I had to be here in like 10 minutes. And so I just tried a new thing today where I was like, well, here's your bottle, here's your crib. And I think he figured it out because when I ran back to get my cell phone, which I still haven't
He
found,
was in charge.
he was asleep. So this might be a new routine.
Your husband working from home.
He is, and he had a call. So his home office is in London. And so he had a call at 7:30 this morning that was going through 9:30. I had my mom coming to the house at 9. So it was this huge shift of, the kids were going to be by themselves downstairs while, my mom was en route and Kevin was up on his call. It all worked out.
Scheduling. Oh, thought about you.
How are you doing? Good.
So far.
Yeah.
Have to be careful though. It's just, the age group is the,
That's right. But you're healthy. You don't have any underlying conditions or anything.
not that I'm aware of
Right.
right now.
Right.
Sam, how are you doing?
Right.
When is your due date?
June 20.
Does it feel like you've been pregnant for 3 years now? I remember when my due date was like a month away and I thought, hasn't it been years?
Yeah, well, he needs to stay in there,
Still cooking.
right? June 20 is a great day.
Y'all have that.
What's that?
We're still recording.
Yeah, just so you know.
Thank you.
We're still recording.
I'm like, I've got 2 girls. So
Oh, but you're the same as me.
these are our little supplies.
How old are your girls?
12 and 8.
Oh, yeah.
Really, really like that. Done.
How old is Amy?
Emmy's 5.
5.
Emmy's 9.
My back killing me.
Griffin's a lucky little.
He is. He's so loved. Those girls are so loved.
Good morning. How you doing? Yeah.
Hey.
How are you?
Yeah, you?
Yeah.
Everybody was y'all? Whenever.
I'll let him know.
Yeah.
As well as.
Okay, that'd be good. Who do we have?
If anybody would care for a donut hole.
Oh, that's what that was. I
Thank
would
you.
care, yes.
I'm good, appreciate it.
I'm gonna grab one. I thought it was popcorn for some reason.
He was getting worked up for the coronavirus first change. Young guy at the house.
Give us a little time to eat. Permission to eat while we're doing this. Okay, let's get back on our budget. Did we make a decision about what to do for the cars and the vehicles for the police department? Don't we need to do that before we move on?
I would like to.
Yeah. Council, okay.
I would like for us to take the police cars. And I think the 2 small vehicles for the fire department, I believe it was, to go ahead and let's just go ahead and pay for those. And let's finance what we've got, garbage truck, fire department, jet, I think it was jet vac truck.
That's coming out of.
That's coming out of that.
Right, in front. But go ahead and finance those two big items. I would strongly suggest that we just go ahead and pay for the cars.
Lynn, what's your thought?
Look, my question actually, I guess, is, so is what you're proposing, Larry, then that we would use our fund balance in order to pay for those cars rather than borrowing money for it?
Yes.
I'm fine with that, so long as it does not affect our ability to get grants. If we don't have enough debt, and this is easy, low interest rate, paid off in 5-year debt, and that's the only way to get the grants, then I would prefer to do it that way. But if it's at 3.25%, I think that's too high. If you can get it in the ones.
My only other concern is, using that fund balance. We are uncertain about our revenues. coming in. We don't want to allocate too much fund balance. And so I do think that this is a good mix, but a fund balance and debt service.
Louise?
In the past, we've used loans for large vehicles, not for the smaller ones. And I feel that, and we're looking at 55,000 in interest over 5 years and 650,000 purchase.
Well, that would be probably working.
At the
Worst
3.25.
case
Yeah,
scenario.
but we don't know about interest. We haven't nailed that down until, what would the interest rate be? Right now, we're just speculating. We might be able to get it for 1 something, or we don't know.
Lynn?
As far as my suggesting that we use the fund balance for it, if we don't use fund balance and we rely on just the ordinary revenues that we budget for next year, then we're going to be very hard pressed to balance the budget. So that's going to cause another decision maybe at some point, whether we do them this year, whether we do it with debt or whether we do it with fund balance, but because that may force us into another decision later,
Right.
just so we're aware.
And I can't emphasize enough, we have no idea about revenues. Right now, we're in uncharted territory. And it doesn't look good.
So I did want to just, once again, discuss the vehicles that we are proposing to replace. They're very old, 2008 and 2010. And even if we replace those 3, we still have two vehicles that are 2011s and 2013. So we still have 2 7-year-old and 2 9-year-old vehicles on the police fleet. So I do recommend that we move forward with the purchase of the vehicles. We don't want to have a fleet that's just aging like this. We don't want to fall behind, just gonna have to buy them next year. But
Well, Sam, if we use our fund balance to pay for those, and then we get in dire straits with not knowing, like you said, could we borrow money then to catch up with those? Is there any way we could stay okay?
yes,
You mean for next year's vehicle?
like I say, I'd recommend just the simple installment financing for the vehicle. The interest rate's gonna be quite low. We just don't know what our revenue's gonna do. I believe they're gonna hold relatively steady. We're gonna have a sharp dip in this quarter and then the first quarter of next fiscal year. But you don't wanna spend all your cash now and then run into an issue later.
Mayor, along those same lines too, because I'm uncertain of revenues. I sort of agree with what Sam's saying. I don't think it'll be as bad for us maybe as some other places, but we don't know what it's going to be. And my suggestion would be that we enter the next budget year, starting July 1, very conservatively, so that we're not just out spending. I don't know, Randy, you might even want to consider just not a freeze on spending, but just making sure that all
And I
department
think
heads
you're
are aware
absolutely right.
that we are going to sort of hold the line initially for the first part of the year until we sort of see how things flesh out.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Hold the line. We have no idea. Goldman Sachs is speculating GDP will be down 24%. And Bank of America and several other financial institutions. And I think the consensus is about 21% it'll be off. But Goldman is pretty much on target. So if they're saying 4%, it probably will be. And that's going to permeate our entire economy. And Eastern North Carolina had a hard time coming back from '08 with a financial debacle related to mortgages. It took us forever to come back. We're still a tier 1 county. And this just exacerbates that.
So moving along those lines, so, you know, a suggestion we could make, we could eliminate the vehicles from the budget and the debt service, just leave the garbage truck in there, because that's a very needed piece of equipment, as well as the debt service for the garbage truck itself. You know, this is one that council would rather revisit in December.
I think that's very smart, but
We had discussed that. We've heard that. The only concern, you know, the only issue that could pop up with that is, you know, some of these police vehicles, you know, once you wait until December or January to move forward with the purchase, they're either not available anymore, or, you know, by the time you get them, it's the next fiscal year.
how
That's
about,
the only concern I've got with
would we
that.
get a little bit of a feel for it? Maybe in June or a little later than that, so, Lynn?
Well, Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, but we won't know, for instance, the last sales tax that you had was.
It's 3 months behind.
Yes,
So
it runs
Oh,
3 months
okay.
behind. So that's the
I
reason
see.
I'm thinking the first quarter of next fiscal year,
Right.
July, August, and September, that we really want to be conservative. By October, November, we ought to
We
be
would know
having
whether
some
to
sort
get
of a
cars
feel.
then? Couldn't we get cars then?
I'm not sure on that
Like
front.
I say, the
but-
main concern, we had discussed that, but the main concern is, especially with the vehicles, especially with the police rated vehicles, because they're kind of specialty item, they only make so many a year. And once they're done making them, they don't make anymore. And by that time of year, especially that turn of the new calendar year, they may not be available anymore.
So we would have to wait a full year.
Yeah.
We need to go, if we're gonna get them, we need to go ahead and get them now.
They're very difficult to get.
Is it the same for the fire department vehicles?
Well, yeah. Those are actually fire rated vehicles. Those are vehicles specifically for fire.
Would it make y'all more comfortable if she figured out a more precise number of what the interest rate would be if we wanted to look into financing it?
I could certainly reach out.
Yeah.
Get some.
If we can nail something down.
Mhm.
What did you have it at? Was it 3.2 or?
I had asked like a while back, and it was about 3.2 was the highest I had heard. But I mean, that was right when I first got here. I was just trying to get a feel of what rates were. But, you know, and talking to some of the other finance directors, they're getting rates that are under 2%. I'm confident that if we bid it out, I would look not just only to our local banks, but I would make sure we got.
We can just want the cheapest rate.
Yeah.
If we're going to borrow. Okay, any other thoughts on vehicles? Okay, we'll go with Mr. Lee. Thank you, Lee, for coming.
Absolutely. So Randy had called and I was listening on the computer. There's some rough numbers for the yard waste discussion. There should be 5 copies there.
you go ahead and summarize what you have there?
All right, so the first box up there in the left corner is the yard waste notification or the compost facility. That's what we previously had off of First Street Extension, which was the old sewer treatment plant. And so that's a specially permitted site, you know, with its own set of rules and regulations that come through the state. And Randy had asked, you know, what would it look like if we were to continue operations there, you know, as either as we used to, or, you know, a little more in line of selling compost, selling wood chips, selling mulch, things like that. And so, you know, the equipment costs are for rough estimates for used equipment. I would assume we would need about 2 full-time staff to fill the void that the additional duties would take away from our current operations. We would need a new loader, a screener to produce the quality compost, a grinder and a mulcher to produce wood chips, irrigation for the compost itself, shed, storage bays for the different materials, equipment, and then of course fencing to secure the site. And the thing that's not noted here, but even with a yard waste notification, you're still subject to hauling fees because you can only hold so much material at the site in a 12-month period, and then you still have to haul it off. So it's.
Do you have any estimate as to how much we would have to haul?
Depends how
I mean,
desirable our material
It really,
is.
right, it depends. You know, I think someone had mentioned possibly selling compost or selling the wood chips, and I think some places do that. And that's where the equipment comes in, is to produce something of quality that people want. And, you know, the material that we would have to haul off annually, it's hard to estimate.
Okay.
I mean, there was so much there. I think Al had over 300 loads, and he was using the 18-wheeler dump trailers. But that's a very rough draft of what a compost facility might look like. And what we've been doing since we've received our notice of violation is we reached out to Al Colley, and he's got a land clearing and inert debris landfill that's relatively close to town. And he's offered us rates, you know, he's offered us rates that have helped us out when we were in need. And the only thing that has to go further, I would say, is our street sweepings. Street sweepings have to be treated as municipal solid waste because they're more prone to contaminants. So when the state came out, you know, we had a discussion, and street sweepings have to be sent to a municipal solid waste transfer site, which we currently take our solid waste to Rocky Mount. So when the street sweeper's full, we found out the other day, with the material that it's taken up this time of year, it's about 2 tons per load. So if he's in some of these hauling rates, you know, they're going to be a little liberal, but not too much, because there's so much cleaning and yard waste and street sweepings that we're doing. And so just did some rough figures there for the different rates for street sweepings, because they have to be treated one way. And then our 2 primary trucks that haul yard waste are the leaf truck, which is the big leaf vacuum. That's our biggest truck. And when it's full, you'll see the rate that we're currently being charged. And we're somewhere right around, you know, 5 loads a week. And we can work through there to the annual cost. Now, that's assuming that the truck is running 52 weeks a year, which that can fluctuate. But just to be sure, we're looking at the holistic picture and, possibly what the higher end of the annual expense might be. That's how I've calculated it.
So the annual expense is gonna be higher than that, for sure. You're gonna have to add the staff back in there as an annual expense, 70,000 every year, plus the irrigation, plus the wear and tear and the replacement on the vehicles. So
Well-
You're looking at cost.
Okay, so I might have not been clear. So the yard waste notification is one portion of the yard waste program itself, right? This is send everything to the dog pound facility, that top box.
Mhm.
That's our startup cost plus the cost that Sam was saying of replacing equipment, staff, wages and benefits that would continue, correct? Now, the next three rows or the next three headings, that's what how we're currently operating.
Just getting rid of all of it.
Just get it, right, that's what we're currently doing because we're not allowed to send anything.
And this doesn't include staff or anything like that, is what you're saying, or replacement cost. This is
Yeah,
just
that's just a
simply
one-time.
getting rid of
Right.
everything with
This
the
is
equipment we
just,
currently
this is
have.
just tipping fees for what we currently have and what we're currently doing. Those next three rows. So street sweepings are $62 a ton with the next few columns of data there. The leaf truck and the chipper truck are our primary vehicles for hauling yard waste. And the leaf truck is our biggest truck, so you see the difference in fees there, which it's really quite reasonable. The site, just so you guys are aware, does not have a scale, which works to our benefit. Our fees are based on volume, not weight. So if it was the other way around, our numbers I'm sure would be much higher.
So Lee, right now, we're taking this out to the place and then Al's picking it up. Is that?
We're taking it out there, dumping and coming back onto the route.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. Now, and with your expertise and having, you see the big picture, what would you recommend?
All things considered, I would continue operations how they are. Load the leaf truck, load the chipper truck, dump them at Al's, come back, do the route. Because even if we were allowed to dump back in town, we still have to load it up once a year and pay the fees on top of pulling 3 or 4 guys and shutting, well, not shutting down, but to meet the requirements that would come with that permit, we'd have to pull 3 or 4 guys and begin hauling until it's all gone once a year from the dog pound out to the landfill. So let's just take it to the landfill once and be done with it.
That's my recommendation. I mean, you're looking at $345,000 startup plus annual costs, plus you're still gonna have to do hauling. Plus, it's highly regulated, And I'm just not convinced that the demand for the product is there.
And if you set up the yard waste site, that's another site for an inspector to come out of Raleigh and come out here and
And we
ding.
might have a new inspector next year.
Come out here and ding us with.
Right, and while I was back at the office this morning, when I heard you guys talking, I did reach out to our 3 points of contact with the solid waste division. I couldn't get up with anybody. I was hoping to bring down the, whatever records they had for past inspections. But I called all 3, no one was available.
I know that there are some towns that do this and they give their product away for free to residents.
Well, we had a mulch pile out there many years ago. And the mulch was free to Nashville residents. Just go out there and get it. So we got no profit from it at all out of there.
I guess the demand wasn't there either. If it piled up.
You didn't have to pay to get rid of it if, you had a good product and people wanted it. That was the nice part about that. Those days are probably gone.
I said, let's keep it the way it is and Pick it up, haul it away and be done with it.
I think that's the easiest. I think it's the most efficient. I think it's the best use of all of our resources.
And in the long run, it will probably save our taxpayers money.
Oh, I would think so. Absolutely.
And that's what we want to do.
Yeah,
Well, we want to be able to continue the service in a responsible manner and, sharing that responsibility is part of it. And just like you guys were talking this morning, it may seem at times that people are trying to slip something in and maybe, calls have come and we've extended a service or for whatever reason, a little bit too far at times. And, one of the things that we're working on specific to yard waste and in general, but with the yard waste, speaking with some residents recently, we've found that they're not too familiar with the current policy that was amended in 2018. I'd love to see that policy amended again, be more comprehensive for what our current needs are, what we see, realistic expenses being, and how we can communicate that to the residents. That's one of our biggest obstacles. Not everybody has the internet, not everybody has social media, not everybody reads the newspaper, not everybody gets text messages. And so not everybody's going to believe that we stuck a sticky on their mailbox to explain the policy. So finding a way to overcome that barrier to communication to ensure that we're able to extend that service to everybody equally is something that I've been working on and discussing with Randy a lot, because once that's in place, I think, we'll be able to cut down on the complaint calls and keep this service going as best as we can, as the residents have come to expect.
I wish we had on our communication system where you could call, and all the residents get the message, like we did with the school system. That would be so nice, because then they wouldn't have an excuse if we could send them a message or, to let them know. Because a lot of older people, they are not computer savvy, and we really need to get to.
another thing too, once we finally get it on board, we're exploring putting our water bills being mailed by another person
Well,
in an envelope. Is that
I had looked into
is that
that.
dead?
Well, we're gonna do it ourselves, it looks like.
I had looked into it. It costs about $20,000 a year.
Okay.
That way. For $6,000 a year, you can rent a machine that folds, seals, stuffs and stamps.
We can do it
And
ourselves.
then the whole town can use the machine.
Okay, that's good.
And you save a little bit on postage that way. It's gonna be an increase in postage above those little postcards.
Right.
But it is a savings and the whole town can use it. We can get better information out. We have more control over the billing process that way.
And another thing too, when we start doing that, your bill will be inside an envelope. So any notifications or educational device, we can print it and put it in the envelope and send it out with your bills. And another thing too that we overlook that's not listed here for this compost facility, loader, shredder, grinder, mulcher, and irrigation. I do not see a line item here for maintenance. Because somebody throws something in the trash that goes through a grinder, it tears it all to pieces. How much is it gonna cost us to fix it?
And that's a really good example, just to touch on, that's a really good example of where when we amend the yard waste policy, we can provide clarification. One of the biggest obstacles we face, as you're aware, last year, the guys sucked up a splitting wedge in the chipper.
Right. Mhm.
And then, I think Brent has started a collection of the things that he's sucked up in the leaf machine. So, it's to be expected, but it's also that shared responsibility of following the policy. So you're not throwing a hedge trimmers or a loppers in the pile, it's getting sucked up and now it's causing $3,000 worth of damage to the $150,000 truck.
That's right.
Now the $150,000 truck is down for 2 weeks while we're waiting for parts and trying to fix it.
Mhm.
And if we're doing our due diligence in separating and setting the piles out as they're expected to be, it pushes that fairness and that, it gives everybody a fair opportunity because somebody didn't take a shortcut and just throw their dull trimmers in
Didn't
the
think,
pile.
right. So Lee, go ahead. You have a question? about
We had to
this?
buy a new chipper.
We had to buy a new chipper last fall, yes.
And how much was that? I'm trying to,
I'll say it's 39,000.
39.
Have you been looking for us a garbage truck?
Thurman and Kevin and I have been discussing garbage trucks. We've got a couple, we're trying to solicit, now don't quote me on all of them, but 3 or 4 different vendors, I would say in the region. And Kevin and Thurman have been out to Rocky Mount, thank goodness for Rocky Mount. They've been our saving grace several times the last.
They have been
couple
good to
years.
us.
Yes. And they've provided those guys with some good insight and got us started in the direction. There's a company that does government contracts. We're going to pursue them because it's kind of just turnkey. You figure out what you want, you go find it on the list, and it's for government contracts. And we're part of it. Sourcewell, I think is what Kevin was saying the name of the company is. We're going to have to, we still haven't finalized whether we want to automate it or I guess a tandem semi-automated like we currently have, but we're going to go with the 31 or 32 yard truck. The more waste we can hold on site, the fewer trips we've got to
Right.
have our downtime going back and forth to Rocky Mount. And if I recall, the budgeted amount, that would cover pretty much anything that we're shopping for. Was it 380?
380.
That includes tax.
Yeah.
And that's one that we have to bid out.
Oh,
Not to give bids.
Sam, we have a sanitation fund. I saw a sanitation fund.
Well, it's not really a fund.
There's no money
It's a
in there that we
department.
can take out for our garbage truck to save us
It's part of
money.
general fund.
What?
It's just part of general fund.
Okay.
Please, just last night, I know there's been some talk about getting another garbage truck comparable to what we've already got that takes the guys on it, jumping off, picking up. And then we also have a little bit of conversation about getting the truck that operated by one with the arms and picking it up. Well, if we get that one, we got to go back and buy some more
Trash cans.
trash bins that will fit that. And strangely enough, I was playing around with Facebook last night, and there was a sketch on Facebook about a city that had a garbage truck going down with one man. And the one person, by every third or fourth pickup, it didn't dump all in the bin and trash was strode every which way. So every fourth or fifth house, the driver had to stop what he was doing, go out and pick up trash if he chose to do it. He didn't do it at every site. Pick up trash and stick it back in the bin.
Mm-hmm.
So has there been any concerns about how neat these trucks are when they pick up?
That discussion hasn't come up specific to that truck, but that discussion has come up with regards to the solid waste ordinance. Especially with the COVID-19 going on, doing some reading and talking to the guys, waste that's not sealed and bagged, that's put in the trash can and I support them, I think it's a reasonable discussion to determine whether that needs to be dumped or it needs to be left because it wasn't, bagged and sealed. Because one, it can blow and go all over the road. Two, the employees that are dumping it are more susceptible to whatever's in that trash can. There's a couple things that go with that. One of the vendors we spoke with, I can't even remember, his name is David or Doug. Well, anyway, he was saying, his auto loader is one of the lowest maintenance, one of the lowest downtime loaders that are out there, but didn't say anything about dumping it. But I think conditions would dictate it the majority of the time, whether it's straight line winds or, you know, a thunderstorm or something.
At least you're looking for a truck.
Yes,
Every time I see that truck, I just feel so sorry for our garbage truck.
we're looking, the discussions have begun, and, you know, I think between Kevin Thurman and Robert, and hopefully, if this new gentleman accepts the position, we can come up with something that meets everybody's needs.
And Sam, you said we had 183,000 set aside for a garbage truck.
Yes, ma'am.
So that'll hit that 380 a little bit.
I don't know if this would be a good time to discuss the fee, the proposed fee increase, or the sanitation budget. I just wanted to point out. Okay, so the sanitation budget, even with the proposed fee increase in both the sanitation and recycling, the net cost to the town in this current, in the new year is going to be $369,000. That's because of the purchase of the garbage truck.
Say that again, Sam, now.
Just even including the increase in fees, the net cost of the sanitation department to the town in the new year is going to be $369,000, and that's due to the garbage truck.
So if you back out the garbage truck,
It's still, so you could just eliminate the garbage truck.
And then what would-
But then you,
no, I'm not saying we're not going to purchase it. I'm saying if you take that out, what is the position of the town? So we can look at,
doubles. That's the net cost of the town. You'd have to add the.
so the net cost of the town is the 300 plus because we're purchasing the garbage truck.
Yes, so.
So what I'm saying is if we were to look at this next year, so we've already purchased the garbage truck, what would there be still a cost to the town, or would we be breaking even in paying for all of these dumping costs and things like that?
You would just about break even. You'd have just enough left to tuck aside for your
Big
next
projects.
garbage truck.
Okay.
And those fees are on page 25 again in your book. The sanitation fee, the current fee is $14 a month, and what we're proposing is increasing that to $18.78. And then on the recycling fee, it's $4.50 a month. And I think now we're looking, the book says 526, but I think, is it Sam, 532,
535.
535?
So the expenditure would increase, and then also the revenue. If we would go ahead and move forward with the fee increase of 535, the expenditure would increase. The revenue would increase. It would just be, it would not be any net change. But if we decided not to move forward with the $5.35, we'd have to cut out the revenue, but the expense would increase. So in your general fund summaries, if you wanted to look, you don't have to do it right now, but if you're looking back through it, I have included a net cost to the town for every department, so that you can look at things that way. So the net cost to the town with the fee increases is still $369,000 in the first year
Sanitation.
in sanitation. And next year, it would not be a net cost if you're not buying a garbage truck. You just have just enough to set aside for your capital replacement cost.
And what page is that sanitation budget on?
208.
We do have Lee here. If there's any of the public works budgets, line items you would like to talk about, good time since we got Lee here. And sanitation is one of the public works budgets that they work put together.
A question about the water rate, the federal mandate and flat fee. The federal mandate was $6, and now we're calling it a flat fee for $7.87. So there's an increase of $1.87, correct?
That's right.
So the mandate is not going away.
No, the mandate would be eliminated. I would replace the mandate with the mandate's a base fee. We've been calling it a federal mandate. To me, it seems almost misleading to call it a mandate. It's a base fee. And so we have to charge a base fee and then base that fee on our fixed costs. And so that's what I've done. I've eliminated the federal mandate, which was really tied to nothing. I mean, it's been on the books and hasn't really changed in quite a while. Just eliminate that fee altogether and replaced it with a new fee. So the net increase is $1.80.
So we're just calling it something
We just
different.
renamed
It's a base
it.
fee.
We just renamed it.
I mean, it's like a euphemism.
Renamed it. So
We get asked, in our office all the time, what is this federal mandate? I mean, it makes it sound like we're being mandated by the federal government to charge this fee, which we're not. It's a base fee, so we're just proposing to call it what it is and base it on fixed costs. And in fact, just a couple of days ago, we actually had a rate study done by a third party. Just a couple of days ago, we received some results. I haven't even had a chance to discuss the results with them yet. But I do have that information here for you. He used a very similar methodology to determine what our rates ought to be, very in line with what I had proposed. In fact, so what he's saying, I'll pass this out to you also. $7.98 would be the base fee in water. $5.33 would be the rate. And then he's going opposite on the sewer. He's saying sewer ought to be $7.21 as the base fee and $13.86. So it's almost like a flip flop. That's what we're doing right now. We've got a high base fee in sewer and a lower rate. What he's proposing is a lower rate, a lower base fee, excuse me, and a higher rate. And then he's also got some options for how you would do like an increase in scale. If you wanted to charge, the more you use, the higher your rate would be. That's really interesting. But like I say, it was very in line with, my projections.
So the mandate just becomes a flat fee that
That's
goes
right.
up $1.87.
That's right.
Okay, so the mandate is now the flat fee. All right, the first 1,000 gallons is $5.74.
Yes.
So the person who just uses 1,000 gallons is getting,
Well, I have also got
Slammed.
some of that information here for you as well. Here, I'll go ahead and pass this out for you.
and then it goes down for the second 1,000 to $4.18. And I'm thinking, why does the first 1,000 have to be higher?
Sam,
My thought is, you just add the two together and call that your base fee, and say your base fee includes the first 1,000. And that's what a lot of our other neighbors are doing. Like I say, I reached out, and that was one of the questions I asked. That's what just about everybody's doing. They're including the first 1,000 gallons in the base fee, but their base fee is higher. So Spring Hope, their water base fee is $17.
Ours would be $13.60.
Whitaker's, their had very high base fee, is $41.60. Elm City is 17. Washington is 15.20. Wilson is 11. Henderson is $12.02. Lewisburg is $19.93. And Tarboro has the lowest of all, $6.33, but theirs does not include the first 1,000 gallons. I also asked to try to see what other towns are doing as far as increasing their fees, do a COLA, that kind of thing. Spring Hope's proposing a fee increase. Whitaker's is not. Elm City is proposing a fee increase. Henderson is proposing a fee increase. Lewisburg is proposing a fee increase in their sewer. Tarboro is proposing a sanitation increase.
Go ahead.
So I have two questions. One, I know we're changing the fees because of grant purposes where the fee structure wasn't working and we were denied several grants because of it. The second concern is obviously the cost to the citizens. So what would allow us to obtain the grants but be the least costly to our citizens?
Well,
Would it be including it?
Like I say,
Including the first, you
the
know,
base fee, I think the base fee does need to increase, and that is gonna be an overall increase for all of the residents. But, one of his suggestions were we do an increased scale, so the more you use, the higher your fee would be. And so for your average resident who doesn't use that many gallons, their rates and fees would be lower than the higher user.
which makes sense. You, just like electricity, you control that, the less you use. Why not water?
No, the caveat to that is, businesses are the ones that tend to use the higher amounts of water, you don't want to be not business friendly. And so there is the downside to that.
Can you establish commercial rates as opposed to just, right now, businesses are being charged at the
The
same
same
rate?
rate.
So one way to get around that would be to establish some commercial rates.
You could do commercial as the same rate. My thought, to kind of be more business friendly, you can do a commercial rate, but also like an industrial rate. So people who are, their operation is very heavy on water, those are the ones that you want to charge a higher rate. Not necessarily all commercial customers, but
Sam, you're talking about doing this for grants. Which grants were we denied because of the way we do it?
well, we had applied for.
The
several.
inventory asset grants.
The inventory asset.
Is
grants.
that the only one?
There were two. There was one for water and one for sewer. They were both for $150,000. Would have been $300,000 total, and we just came up short.
Because of the way we're doing this.
A
Well,
lot of them, we just haven't been applied, but we just know that you have to have some. You have to have, your rates have to be basically a certain minimum level. It's 30, I think it's $33 per.
33, it's 34 and 32, I think,
Did we have,
5,000 gallons.
for water and sewer. They said if it's not at that school we went to, they said if you don't meet the minimums, you're disqualified for the majority or all of water and sewer infrastructure grants, except the asset and inventory.
but that we were still denied.
we were.
Yeah, the other thing, I mean, it wouldn't be a total deal breaker, but the fact is we just don't have any like major infrastructure debt. We haven't done any major infrastructure projects lately. So they look at the whole picture. So if we had had one but not the other, we may have had some more points on it, but we don't have either. So we're just trying to increase our chances. Change some of these.
And Lee and I are holding off proposing any until we had that asset inventory done to know where our poor quality water lines and our problem sewer lines are. And then we could couple those together. Now, we obviously know we got one on Jones Street in Virginia. In the older parts of towns, those might even be original water lines yet. And, they're pushing 100 years plus.
And Sam, you told us one time how much we would, if we didn't have an increase, we would be in the hole, basically.
Basically, you're dipping into your fund balance at that point.
At how
Because-
much?
Well, however
You
much
told
the-
us one time and I wrote it
It's
down
in my-
somewhere and I
I
can't,
think we even have a sheet on it.
we had a sheet on it. I don't know
Yeah,
where it
it was
is.
in our presentation. Can't quite remember that now.
Let me see.
So just the sanitation. Your deficit pretty much goes, so my numbers have been amended slightly since I did this. But my original numbers it went from a deficit of 350, and now it's 360. Numbers have changed to 491. So you're looking at a little bit less than $200,000 dipping into your general fund savings. But you don't want to do that year by year. And that's why I recommend the fee increase.
What page are you on? That was your
So
budget
this was my rate increase presentation.
Oh,
It's in this, right?
This one. If you brought it with you.
Current year projection? No.
Awesome.
it was from the
That second meeting.
Rate increase considerations.
Okay, that was my question. Louise, did you?
Have we heard from Rocky Mount about their rate increases for water and sewer?
I don't think they're not gonna be having any this coming fiscal year.
We have that documented.
We have that documented, yes. No increases from Rocky Mountain this coming fiscal year.
We know we're gonna have a recycling increase, because he told us that the other day.
So at this time, I'm just gonna leave the fee increase in there. And I'm gonna increase the recycling fee to $5.35.
So the total increase is $7.50. Since that went up that went up 9 cents. It was $7.41. That's $7.50.
Any more comments, Sam Cancel, about this?
I just have questions in the budget
Okay.
itself. Most of these I think can be answered by Sam.
And what page are you on now?
So let's see. I'll go to page 88. So in, oh wait, no. So is fleet maintenance under you?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so I see in fleet maintenance, in streets, in sanitation, stormwater, and all of these pretty much, but there's line items for travel and education. So can you just give us like a rundown on the travel and education that will occur, whether any of that can be combined, if there's.
Say the divisions again.
So fleet maintenance has a travel and education component. That's gone up. Let's see.
You were saying,
Streets does
you'd
not,
like to get
sanitation does.
Kevin ACE certified?
Yeah, so there was a recommendation, I can't remember where it came from, but I had seen it and it was for Kevin, who's head of fleet maintenance, to pursue some formal training. So what that looks like, I'm not exactly sure, but it might be ASE certification in some specified field. And then everybody else, I'm not too familiar right now what the opportunities are, but I'm sure there's something. And, you know, just being a proponent of further education, whatever these guys can do, whether it's a certain certification for a trash truck, or if it's some sort of technique to use on the street crew for patching or running equipment, you know, it would benefit them and build our team stronger. So I know some of those line items I had thought in the past were kind of low, and so just having the opportunity to find something for them to go to is my hope.
Okay, so it's kind of just a generic until you find something specific.
Right.
Okay. So page 91 right now in materials and supplies. So this has jumped up quite a bit from 18,000 to 50,000 for truck cleaning solution and tools. Is that just because of the current pandemic where we need something a little bit?
Is that sanitation?
Yes, sorry.
I know I think I had included in there. What's that, Sam?
30,000 for
500?
cans. We added some additional money in there for.
Oh,
trash
yeah.
cans.
Trash cans are in that one too?
So if we get an automated truck,
Right, and Larry had asked about trash cans. We do, hopefully next week. This week we had some shifting going on, we couldn't do it, but we're gonna go next week and take inventory of all of our low trash cans. So we actually have a goal to shoot for, whether it's replacing, purchasing, or just know how we can prepare for those replacements. Truck or not, those cans will should be considered the first to fail. I think there's a hot water pressure washer in there.
That one I thought
Or
was
was that,
somewhere else.
or was that in equipment? We moved that to
That
equipment?
got moved to equipment under 5,000.
Okay.
All right, so the trash cans make sense for
Yeah,
that.
the
jumping
trash
up. I think
cans
those are
and
quite
just-
expensive.
Making sure we have enough solution to take care of a new truck. The
Okay.
current truck leaves a little bit to be desired, and we can work on that by having the right equipment and tools.
My next one is on the same page, contract services. We have budgeted 175,000. So under contract services on page 210, we have recycling services for 135. And then it says trash service for 175.
So
We've done our tipping fees on that.
originally it was requested that we look into
The
doing a
possibility.
recycling contract, but looking at that.
Trash contracts, no.
It was for recycling.
Yeah.
For waste industries. It was part of that for recycling. But it's not more costly to do recycling by contracting out than just to do it in-house. So that was why.
Trash,
We do contract out for
Trash.
recycle.
We already
Trash.
contract.
Yes,
that's right.
Okay, so now recycling though is listed at 135. And we have 175 in the budget.
You're on 3,200?
I'm on page 91, contract services, 10,580 for 4,500.
Contract services.
there was an increase for the hauling for the yard waste. in there.
So that's hauling,
It does include the hauling.
that's alkali.
That's right. So
And the
that's
175.
Yeah, from the 135 to the 175.
Okay.
Yes. But the decrease from his request to what we're recommending is because we chose not to move forward with the contracted out
Trash.
trash.
Okay. All right. The capital improvements on that same page for 35,000.
Is that for the shed?
For the
That was
shed,
for covered, yeah, covered storage for the street sweepings.
Okay, there's
Um,
3 things in here that are way more costly, so I guess I just wanted clarification on which ones were included.
All right, so my notes, and this is early on, so correct me if I'm wrong, but we had a possible rollout cart replacement project.
Which got moved to, so the
The other-
trash can got moved. to
Okay,
the
so
other
that's out.
Covered storage for street sweepings
Okay,
and the yard waste site improvements.
that's
Those
50,
were my 3 notes.
right. But we have 35,000 in there, so it looks like 1.5 of those got done.
Well, we had, after talking, discussing it in the budget meetings, we came up with some more realistic estimates
Okay.
about what that will really cost. The cost was reduced.
So that is those 2
Yes.
items.
Mhm.
Okay, perfect. Okay, that one's already answered. The capital reserve on page 92. I think is on 215 explanations, maybe.
So they're looking at stormwater, right?
Yes, I am now in stormwater.
So in stormwater, this is kind of mandated. We charge a fee for stormwater, and if you charge that fee, then all that money is reserved, basically has to be reserved for stormwater projects. And so the fee that we charge this year, we haven't allocated all of that out. So we, basically the money
Mhm.
that we have collected in fees, we're putting into a capital reserve for future stormwater.
Okay, so there's nothing,
That's right.
okay, all right.
I have a question under stormwater on the $10,000 for transfer station fees. Refresh my memory on that again.
So we had discussed that, that some of the street sweepings that are collected by the stormwater department, those would, the tipping fees for that would be included in the stormwater.
Okay, so just.
Okay, so that was just taken out of the total amount.
It was taken out of the sanitation budget. It
Okay.
got moved from sanitation to
Okay,
stormwater.
I have a question. We have a lot of drainage ditches around town and stormwater, supposedly that takes care of that, those drainage ditches, right?
Correct.
Okay. So they're being taken care of sufficiently. That's my concern.
We have open ditches and closed ditches. The issues that I'm aware of are mostly in the open ditches that the guys have shared, and those ones we are maintaining adequately.
Lee, I have a question for you that someone asked me just the other night. You know where our drains are, where the water runs and it goes down in those drains? And someone approached me and said that great big bugs are coming out of them. Just great big bugs. And they wanted me to find out, do we treat those? Is there anything that we treat those places with to prevent bugs from?
We don't treat storm ditches or storm drains for
Drains.
bugs. And I would imagine it would be difficult just based on, you can't put anything in a storm
Right.
drain except stormwater. So
They just asked me and I did not know.
first time I've heard of it.
Well, they said that they'd actually come out at night and they'd have a wall in front of their house and said you could actually go out there and see them climbing up the wall, and said they actually got in the house. So anyway, I was just wondering about that.
You'll see on my capital replacement plan, we've included some drainage projects now. So those are now gonna be included and planned for.
Oh, but,
It's a capital replacement plan.
okay.
Lee, wouldn't the bug situation, couldn't that be where the materials and stuff that's draining it out and goes in the drains is sitting and not flushing its way out?
Right, I mean, they could just be feeding on the,
They're just feeding on the trash that's in the bottom.
right.
And what we probably need to do is just flush those drains to get that sediment on down the system.
Mhm.
That's probably what's happening.
Could be.
Because you can't put any disinfectant or any chemicals down the public drain, but we can flush the drain out. That may be the problem.
Yeah.
We share the address after.
Madam Mayor,
Okay.
under the Powell bill, I remember Sam, you telling us that we are actually budgeting 55,000 in reserves from what we had. What was the 200,000? There's no specifics at this point, or just general streets?
Project it was a project, specific power fund project. That was gonna come
In the Powell bill.
The power funds, so it's part of the street and sidewalk repair schedule. So whatever that piece that was scheduled, we're gonna follow through. It does also include 30,000 for just unforeseen maintenance on the sidewalks. But that piece that was scheduled, that's in the schedule. Looking at it realistically, it's gonna cost more than what we're gonna get this year. So we're gonna have to dip into the capital reserves to get that done.
Oh, that's right.
That's the PAL funds that were received years before that we just haven't used.
That's right.
Correct.
And just FYI, I was setting everything up in the financial system. We already had a line item set up for PAL fund reserves, and it's not that same line item that's in the budget. So if you ever see it again, it's gonna be a different accounting line item. I don't recall what number it is, but it's not the number that I put there.
We get about 145 a year for Powell.
And they have said, the league has said that they believe that the PAL funds are not going to be impacted
Wow.
at this time.
Good.
Because they
That's
use a
good.
different ratio, they use different measures.
Any more discussion? Questions to Lee? Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
And make sure you let your people know how much we've appreciated their efforts during this time, out working, and
I'll do it. I know some of them are glad to be back, so.
I know, I think everybody's ready to go back to work, but it's not. But anyway, let them know how much we appreciate all they did.
I have one more
I
question.
have a couple
Louise,
too.
okay, Louise, and
Did we ever
then
hear from Republic? Did you reach out to the other?
I have not. I called them 4 different times and we have not gotten anything back as far as response from Republic.
Sorry, I'm on page 98 now, Water and Sewer Administration. That's you. Okay, so I see professional services. And I think that's for some sort of mapping.
So professional services is gonna include BC3
Okay,
IT service. If there is some consulting in there. It's $10,000 for consultant.
Of that 14,
That consultant that you had put in for your water and sewer, the lady that you hired, that you wanted to hire,
Right.
and legal fees.
okay, so that's professional services.
That's right.
Okay, then we have 22,550 in ancillary.
So that, once again, includes the VC3 phone, internet, and postage. Postage is high in this budget. Last year, and other years, they put all of the postage in the water fund.
Okay,
in water, but really it's an admin cost, so we're putting that back in the admin budget. That's why there's such a huge increase in this one.
okay,
$18,000 I've got budgeted just for postage.
wow. Okay.
Maybe we better get a drone.
And does this have to do with our new mailing?
No, well, there will be some increase, but it's just as much mailing as we have to do. That's just how much it costs. I think we've got 17,000 this year budgeted.
In software and data support for 40,000.
So whenever we get to that item, I'm requesting new financial software. And so the utilities portion of that would be charged to water and sewer fund. However, I was able to reach back out to the vendor. I've looked at several different vendors. Don't ever want to see another software vendor at this point. As many vendors we looked at. The one that we really like the most, they are willing to negotiate with us and work out a cost to be able to spread that cost out over 3 years.
Okay,
So that would be a reduction
okay.
in this fund as well as in,
So I thought I saw the full amount in your other
well,
line item for the
So-
100,000.
it's not, the reason why is because the 100,000, that's probably my estimate, but in the first year, we also have to pay our current software vendor annual maintenance until we're fully rolled over. We have both costs.
Okay, so you have 140 in there total.
Yes.
Okay,
And I think at the time, I didn't know how much it was gonna cost, so I budgeted a little bit high for it.
okay. But then this is going to be broken down to 3 years anyway, so that will reduce in both areas.
That's right. And the software does include an HR component, so the HR pieces will be charged to the HR budget.
Okay.
A planning component, which will be charged to planning.
Okay,
There's even a fleet maintenance component, so that would be charged to fleet maintenance.
But all of that falls under the 100,000?
It is not,
It's an addition.
that's right.
Okay, so 100,000 for financial and 40,000
The
for,
100,000 does include the current vendor cost as well. The total cost was 96,000 for everything. And I split that out across, but we also have to pay our current software vendor in the first year.
And that's all
about
coming out of
26,000,
finance.
yeah.
okay, I'm not clear. All right, so 100,000 for financial, let's just call it 100,000, whether it's 96 or what. Okay, then there's additional software for HR in addition to that, right?
Yes, I believe I put in 5,000 or 10,000.
yeah, there's software questions I have actually through each
Exactly.
one. There are things that we haven't really gone over.
So that's all in addition to the 100,000 for financial.
Correct, but it is not going to be 100,000. At this time, like I say, I didn't know how much it would cost. I didn't have any estimates, so I put in the number. Luckily, the estimate for the software that we liked the most actually came in under the 100,000. And they've even further stated that they're willing to work with us and break that down for us over the cost of over 3 years. Just keeping in mind that we're in the first year, we're still going to have to pay our current software vendor
That we're getting rid of.
the annual maintenance fee, because you can't just switch over.
But it's hard to nail
It's about
down a
36,000
figure.
That we pay
Right.
them.
Lynn, will the current software vendor, can we prorate that or will we have to pay?
Yeah,
full year?
I'm working with them to do
Okay.
that.
My next question has to do with computers, because I know when we talked about VC3, it seemed like rental of computers could be included in that, but I see a lot of computer purchases through several different departments.
We just looked at it, over the cost in the long run. It's just a lot more costly to rent a computer
We
than it is to
couldn't
purchase
afford
it
it.
outright.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, so it's cheaper to purchase.
Yeah, but like I said in the last meeting, we purchased a lot of computers recently because we've had to telework. And in fact, we may have to do it again in the months coming, the thing, if it happens again. So some of those can actually be cut out at this point because we've already purchased computers, so we can
Reduce.
Yeah.
I noticed that there was 6,000 in the police department for computers. Under the
Now,
police budget.
those are MDTs, and so those are actually in-car computers.
Mhm, okay.
And so we have to leave those.
Okay, so the next one I have is on page 99. So I think this is meters in here. On 3,330. It says $140,000.
Which item is that?
It's 3.8 down there, 8.1 with the meters.
Replacement meters, yeah.
Okay. So that's just what we're looking at every year
Yeah.
for adequate replacement of
Correct.
meters. Okay.
Will we ever catch up? Or do we just keep going?
It's very common that it's just a rolling process.
That's what I was thinking.
Water tower maintenance. was explained. So now I'm on page 100 for professional services in sewer operations. And that
Once
one's
again-
15,000. Is that another mapping consulting?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, did we change vendors for maintaining our water towers?
Yes.
We did make
We
change.
stopped a contract with our previous vendor in January and have, I think we've solicited a couple coming into this next budget year.
We haven't used them yet.
Correct.
They're out of it. Roanoke
Roanoke.
Rapids.
Okay, and then. Sewer system rehab. The sewer, I think this is page 101, the 62,000 that we have budgeted for equipment over 5,000. That's the sewer jet?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and then the rest just looks like things that you've done, Sam, as far as parsing things out, like all the testing and lab supplies and sewer system supplies. It just seems like they were probably in something and now spelled out what they're each for.
That's right. So we're actually trying to break it down by lift station site, sewer
Okay.
system versus lift station. That way we have a better understanding of the cost associated with each of those for infrastructure replacement purposes.
Those are all, oh, are you, who's public buildings? That's you too? Okay. So this one, I mean, it's under yours, but it's really questions I think I have for Randy and for Sam on page 85.
Okay.
So we have maintenance and repairs for town hall for 8,000, police and fire 5,000, 17,000 for the library and the council.
I can tell you, I've got my notes here. Maintenance repairs, town hall. So it says battleship electric repair was in there.
The underground electric and the battleship.
Yeah.
When we had the Christmas lights on, that ground fault was tripping every other day, even sooner, so we're gonna get that rewired.
Okay.
The 5,000 for the police and fire was more, it's more of a contingency in case we have any
AC
repairs.
problems.
Okay, just things that happen each year.
17,000 for our library and council included the generator. We're moving the generator and also landscaping.
Actually setting the generator.
Well, we don't need a generator. We just need to hook that one up.
Exactly. It's been sitting there for 3 years. It came from the Elm Street lift
Right.
station. We moved it up here with the intent of putting it behind here. What you need to do is move it back here, get a transfer switch and have,
Yes.
oh, yes, okay, connected.
I thought it was hooked up.
I think a lot of people do.
Maintenance and repairs, public works, 25,000.
Some of that was fencing, just miscellaneous, several miscellaneous repairs that need to be done.
Okay,
Right, I think we got a generator hookup there as well,
okay.
fencing.
Was that to replace fencing, Lee, or paint what's there? Were you gonna try and paint that rusty
Well,
old fence?
I think replacing them on the back 3 sides would be what we're looking at. On Railroad and Bass and then across the back side.
All right, my next one is on the next page, 86, 20,000 for capital improvement town hall.
This was one that was discussed a couple meetings back. Something that they have been throwing around for several years. It's the front hall, the town hall front counter, front lobby upgrade, which would include plexiglass in that area,
Okay,
cameras, camera system up there, and flooring.
And maybe if we can, some type of additional night deposit box
Mhm.
in addition to the drive-up one.
okay,
One thing we have noticed with the town hall being closed to the public, our drop box just isn't big enough. I mean, we have to empty it 2 or 3 times a day. It's just overflowing, stuffed with envelopes.
The weekends are really challenging.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a strange problem to have, but we really need to probably upgrade that box, to get a bigger and more secure box for drop box payments. $5,000 for the library and council chambers was for the awning and signage and facade.
so I thought we purchased the sign out of this year's budget, no?
We did it.
We may have.
Oh, you didn't? Okay, that was the proposal. Okay,
The 20,000 for parks, that's just the contingency.
right. Mhm.
I could have put that in a contingency line, but I just get there. And capital improvements, public works, it says build an office, so we're gonna improve the office space there. And camera system for the inventory, which is held there.
What Lee's looking at doing in order to get back up the speed with our grease, fats and oils and our sampling for BODs and CODs and all the other components. We don't have it in this year's budget to hire that individual, but when we do in the future, which we need to, going to need another office over there in Public Works for that individual to work out of. So Lee was thinking in this year's budget, put some money in there so we could frame up an office inside the building.
Correct.
So the following year, when we do get that individual, I'll have some place to have an office.
Oh, okay, you're gonna frame up an office within the already existing building, not building a standalone.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Shouldn't cost a whole lot. But
No, it shouldn't.
Any other questions concerning the budget for Lee?
And this may be a Sam question, but part-time salaries in public buildings increased from 8,120 to 12,300.
So the market study impacted that. I think he's proposed to go from $10 per hour to 12 per hour, based on that market study. So that's what. And that's budgeted at 1,000 hours.
That's budgeted of what did you say?
1,000 hours.
1,000 hours.
On page 85.
Got it. Any other questions concerning this?
The new sewer vac vehicle for 62,000, is that, so it's a more nimble, you can get it
Yeah,
places?
so, and just to clarify, sometimes I feel like we might all not be on the same page when we talk about the sewer jet and whatnot, but because the terms are kind of interchangeable, but so we have the large vac truck, right? So for all intents and purposes, the vac truck also has a jetting component to it. That's the big, I think we've got one more interest payment on it. That would be the vac truck or the jet vac or the camel truck, whatever you want to call it. And this one is the small jetter or the quick response truck, which is the bread and butter of what we do. The one we have, is, I think it's pushing 20 years old, leaking like a sieve. But this is our primary tool for what people call with sewer backups during and after normal business hours. So somebody at supper time has a backup and it's down or we don't have one, it's bad for everybody. So that's the, and I think the one we proposed is a trailer model. Obviously it's half the cost of the truck model, but it serves the same purpose, which is to keep the sewer services unblocked and keep the sewer in the pipe and not on the ground. Wastewater.
So the larger one is for big operations.
The larger one is for routine sewer main cleaning. Yes.
What about the asphalt recycling machine? Is that utilized or was that a boondoggle?
It's utilized a little bit. In speaking with the guys, coming here I had seen it for the first time and started asking opinions, and it's burdensome, it's cumbersome. I don't know that it's here, but I know some of the guys are aware of stories that there are some safety concerns with people that have used them, in surrounding utility operations. But I think if you drive around, you can see that it produces an inconsistent product where they've used it. And so we use it if we must, but we're also constantly exploring ways that we might get a better product. So, we do have it, and we do use it on occasion.
But when we bought it, we thought it was the best thing since sliced bread, and everybody was so glad to have it, and we were going to use it. And we even had a major breakdown on it that cost us an arm to get it repaired. And now you're telling us it's just a yard ornament piece of equipment.
Well, we'd actually proposed to sell it. That and the infrared heater.
Correct.
We proposed to sell it.
You're right. It was sold to us like it was wonderful. People would
Yeah.
bring their
Well, I tell you,
asphalt to us and we'd recycle it and we'd
We go-
fill every pothole from here to Raleigh.
Well, I'll tell you that I won't name them, but the business that did sell it to us, I can see that they might have spit a good game, but haven't been impressed since. I've been waiting 9 months now for an email and a phone call on a follow-up, and if they're just the business hasn't been what they've cracked themselves up to be that sold it to us. And like I said, as I've pressed the guys for what it was, and they said the same thing. When it was sold to us, it was the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
And now we kind of been left hanging, and as it's gotten down the road, it's become a bit cumbersome to operate, and there's a lot of downtime with it from operations standpoint, whether heating, waiting, and all the people that are required to do the work once it's heated. But now they've just spent 30 minutes or an hour waiting to get the asphalt hot and hope that the product that comes out is going to produce a satisfactory result.
And were we dependent on people bringing us asphalt to make it?
Yeah, we had something, that, all the neighboring municipalities were gonna bring it to us, and we were gonna fill all our potholes up, and we could even go to Spring Hope or
And then they didn't bring it.
whenever, and
Oh, I think they did bring it.
they did bring some. Matter of fact, that some of the stuff you just cleaned up at the cemetery was some that were brought over. We had an asphalt pile, you know, we shouldn't have any holes in the streets in Nashville because we could fill them all up.
How are we filling potholes?
We were the only ones in the area that got this machine.
Well, we've used, since I've been here, we've used the asphalt machine a couple times, and we've ordered a batch of, I don't know what it's called, hot mix or cold patch. But I think long-term, you know, long-term, I think we would get a better result with an asphalt hot box, whether it's loaded on a dump truck or even a trailer mount or a pickup bed. The quality that the local yards can produce, I think, is it Barnhill? The quality that Barnhill can produce, you know, far exceeds what we can produce from a recycler. And if we're doing it in a proactive way by, you know, making our list, our repair list, and having a plan, we can go by the quantity we need, put in a superior product, and have a better end result.
And we've probably been better to buy a small roller that we could put on a trailer. And once you put the hot mix in, you roll it and get it nice and level.
Right. The roller we have, I think, is sufficient for small repairs, small potholes. But again, it all starts with the quality of the product.
Do you think we're gonna be able to sell the machine?
You know, I think there's some places that have a need for it. And there's several avenues that we can pursue that to put some feelers out there.
But do you think the Yahoo that talked us into buying the darn thing could come back and sell it to somebody else for us?
He's the one I've been waiting since August for a phone call back from.
And I recall we paid about
We
79,000.
paid a bunch of money for that thing.
for that.
You know, that and the infrared heater, I think, I don't know the exact figures, but it's close.
$80,000. And the repair cost us, I forgot what broke on it. It stayed down for a while. It cost us a big amount of money to get it repaired.
Which brings me to slurry. Are we still doing slurry for various streets like that, or have we abandoned that?
Well, you know, with this current round of our Powell Bill project, you know, just so you guys are aware, if you're not aware, we've gotten lots of compliments on the sidewalk repairs. We fixed
Oh,
some-
yeah. Yeah,
fixed some
great,
good spots.
You did.
great.
And I think the contractor that we hired did some quality work. And they've also done some major repairs on historically problematic areas, Evans Drive, North Winstead Avenue. And now Cross Street, we're sticking to the schedule that Sam was referencing for our street repairs. And you know, we're not going to be able to mill and repave the entirety of Cross Street, but we are going to, we've made the major repairs so that the seal coat that's going to be coming in the fall will last. So I wouldn't technically say it's a slurry seal, but it's a you know, DOT rated seal coating that they'll come back and paint their lines and everything on that will increase the durability and the life of the street.
What we were dealing with before was slurry as opposed to asphalt. Asphalt is extremely expensive.
Correct.
Slurry was,
1/3 of the cost.
right. And so we were using slurry on some of our streets.
Mhm.
A good example is Fort Street, Green Street.
Well, the street that runs up by your house.
And Fort and Green.
Well, yeah, I walk that street all the time. And that particular street, slurry is not lasting like we thought it was gonna be, because it is cracking up terribly.
Mhm.
It doesn't look like we even slurred it, but I know we did.
Well, I don't know the lifespan or what who did the work or what they provided for, how long their product will last. We're hoping to see 7 to 8 years of extended life.
Well, this section I'm talking about is not 7 years old.
Okay.
It's probably 3 max.
Well, and
Right.
and they made something to be aware of too, that I've learned dealing with these asphalt contractors recently is we're explicitly aware that, plow blades, will shorten the lifespan of a
Right.
seal coat. So I would imagine it might be the same for a slurry seal, but if you're not aware or you're not told on the front end, it could come as a surprise. It seems like common sense, but, just being aware of that. And I think those trucks on Cross Street will be, I know they're pleased now with those big divots gone, but I think the lifespan we'll get out of it, I think we'll be all right.
Thank you, Lee. We're into our lunchtime. Do I hear a motion that we break for lunch?
So moved.
Second.
Second, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
I'll see you back at 1.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
Would you guys like the fire